us tonight for the Manoa Neighborhood Board meeting for February 7th, 2024. And this is the call to order for the meeting. And can I please have check to see if we have quorum at this time from our neighborhood board representative?
Hi, when I call your name, please say here. Okay. Zane,
Here.
Watson, Basel, Nagaji,
Here.
Fukumoto,
Here.
Lumen,
Here.
Lee. Oh, Lumen?
Here.
Okay. Lee, Koff,
Here.
Chong, Kawano,
Here.
Fox, Robert Fox. Okay. We don't need a quorum. We only have 8.
Lee is here.
Oh, Lee's here?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, now we we make quorum, yeah.
Okay. And you made sure Robert Fox is here as well, right?
Oh, okay. He's here, okay. Okay, then we have 10. So we meet quorum.
Great. Okay. So first on the agenda is the report from the Honolulu Fire Department.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Captain Chris Edwards from the Manoa Fire Station, Engine 22. I'll give you the statistics for January and our fire safety tip for the month. So for January of 2024, we had 1 structure fire, 1 nuisance fire, 10 activated alarms with no fire, 65 medical calls, 5 motor vehicle collisions, 1 mountain rescue, and that was a visitor. Member Watson, I know you like to know that one. And our safety tip for the month is don't stall, call 911. Call 911 right away when there's an emergency. Once the operator is on the line, speak clearly and provide an accurate description of the type of emergency and the location. Remain calm. The operator may ask for additional information or provide instructions. If you find yourself in a spot where you do not have good cell phone reception, for example, an elevator or while hiking, you can text your emergency to 911. And if you don't know the passcode to unlock a cell phone, you can press the emergency button to unlock and call 911. That's us.
Thank you very much. Any questions from members of the board? Hearing and seeing none questions from the community. Thank you very much. I appreciate your report and looking forward to seeing you all next month, sorry. Moving on now to the Honolulu Police Department.
Hello, Lieutenant Taro Nakamura with HPD. These are stats for January as compared to the previous month. Motor vehicle thefts were 14 as compared to 16. Burglaries were 3 as compared to 1. Thefts in general were 8 as compared to 5. And UEMVs, which is theft from autos, was 2 as compared to 6. Set of total calls of service of 6,719. Further statistical information can be found on our website, www.honolulupd.org. And our safety tip for the month is scams. We don't have one. Well, scams are always ongoing, but we don't have one of notoriety. But I just wanted to send this out again to make sure that people are aware. Anybody that, especially on the internet, the more common ones these days are phishing scams. So if you don't recognize the sender, try not to open any attachments to any emails from somebody you don't know. That's the most common way. And if somebody does call you at home and they say, please pay your property taxes via gift cards and send them to Nigeria, that's a scam. You'd be surprised how many different ways people try to scam people. It's kind of sad, actually. Yeah, we just wanted to remind people that there are unscrupulous people everywhere, including the internet. And that's our safety tip for the month.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from members of the board? Member Fox. Robert, you're still muted.
Here it is. I also was a prospective victim of a scam. They called me up and told me that I had not shown up for jury duty. And I was, like, okay. And there's a bench warrant out for my arrest, blah, 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 blah. And it was like turning into $3,000 worth of fines from the police department, but I could make it $300 if I just went down to a kiosk at Walmart. And, it's like,
Wow.
really?
It's terrible.
I mean, clearly I'm smart enough to say, you people are nuts. And the bizarre part about that was the next morning at 7 o'clock, the scammer called me on the phone and said, I was the one who was trying to scam you, but I think you're really, really attractive. I want to meet you. It's like, what? It's like just unbelievable. However, I have a comment for the police department, and I want you to address this because it's a serious matter. A recent article has shown up regarding the lack of transparency of the police departments telling the community about the incredible increase in crime across Oahu. We all read it, and it was startling. It wasn't like, oh, gee, we have a 12% increase. It was a 168% increase in crime. And they listed out the various crimes. It was like 78 crimes, on Oahu within the last, very short period of time.
Mm.
My comment here, particularly as a citizen and as a neighborhood board leader, it does not help us at all if the police department doesn't open up that information to the community. If you don't tell us that there is a murder on Kalakaua Avenue, we're not going to do something about it. If we don't know that there was a stabbing on Kuhio, we're not going to know about it. And I'd like you to respond to that. Has the police chief gotten the message, or do we still have to have investigative reporting be the only avenue of information that we have regarding the police department and crime stats on this island?
I am the lieutenant for patrol in District 7, and I do not and I cannot speak for the police department. That being said, I understand this subject about transparency or the lack thereof, and I can forward your concerns to the chief of police, who can definitely speak for the police department. That's without getting myself in more trouble than I usually do. That's about all that I can say, but I can definitely, in my after action report, I can definitely understand, transmit your concerns about the supposed lack of transparency in my report to the chief.
The reason I brought this up, to be frank, I called the police chief and I wanted to go directly to the top because I don't like to bother other people, right?
Mhm.
I wanted a clarification. I couldn't get through. They would not answer the call. They gave me, oh, we'll call you back. Well, that was 3 weeks ago. Never happened again. I called 5 different times. We're on this board because we represent the people of Manoa. And it's like, we try to do the best job we can. But if we don't have the information to give our neighbors about what's going on, we can't help. So I already tried doing that directly to the chief. So my expectation is that you go directly to the chief and say, by the way, this is going to be kept broadcasting until we have a transparency from the police department telling the citizens of Oahu what's going on and what is the plan. You've got to have a plan.
Sure, I can definitely do that. I'm a peon, but I can definitely do that, and I'll voice your concerns.
I would like to have a call back. Thank you.
I don't know if you can see me, but I'm at Hawley over here with the rest of the guys. I'm Major Lynch. I'm the boss
There
of
we go.
District
He's my
7.
boss.
Am I seeable now?
We can see you in the
See you.
distance. Yes,
Can you hear me all right?
yes, we can hear you.
So I can address some of the concerns that you brought up. As far as transparency, I don't always believe what I hear on the news. That's going to be an individual choice. I'm not saying what they're saying isn't right or wrong, but could the police department do better as far as transparency? I would agree with that statement. I would also say that we're working towards that endeavor. Having said that, at any time you can go to our webpage and you can look at the crime mapping and you can see what's going on. If there's something immediately like aliens are invading and stay in your house kind of thing going on, by all means, we would, let you folks know. But, as far as the news story itself, it was more specific to commercial burglaries, which means commercial places being broken into. And so, what we're doing about it is to put it bluntly, we're catching bad guys. I would imagine that's probably going to come out. We can't always tell everybody what we're going to do because then the bad guys are going to know that
Yeah, no
that's
problem.
what we're doing, right? And so we don't always share everything because then that defeats the purpose of us going to catch bad guys. So, did I answer your question? Is there anything else I can clarify for you?
Yes, actually, you can. The article was written by Civil Beat, and they did a very vast investigation. There was nothing on your police registry that showed all of these smash and grab robberies. P.S. All of our businesses on this island, I've been a businessman for, 47 years.
Right.
We need to know.
So if you look under, it's not under smash and grab. That's like a term that we just lately used. It's classified as a burglary second. So if you were to search using that, it would probably pop up on the crime mapping. I'm sorry.
I don't mean to interrupt, but see, that doesn't help us. It's like what we do in the police department. Yes, I served on the police commission in Long Beach, so I'm rather familiar with the terminology. If you categorize something as a burglary, it doesn't help the businesses. Smash and grab is a whole different ballgame. And we're talking about like Chinatown, small businesses. They cannot afford to lose $950 worth of stuff. They work really, really hard to put $950 in. All across this island, people are working really, really hard. And I think we need to have a real concerted effort from the police department not to dismiss this investigative reporting, but to address it head on and say, yes, this is our problem. Here's what we think you should do to protect yourself. These are the tips that we're going to give you for putting up security cameras or, get a bat, or I don't know what your solution is going to be, but, that's sort of why the police department is there, is to guide us.
I would agree with you, and I was only responding to what you were asking as far as what we were doing and the news stories and how to find these things on the crime mapping. As far as what we're doing with the actual people that are victims of these crimes, yes, we do offer services such as suggestions of cameras and alarms and roll down, steal up doors and all those things. So it's the impression given is that we don't care and we're not doing anything. And I would say that's wrong. That's not the case. We do care and we are doing things. Again, we can't always share exactly what we're doing because then again, the bad guys are going to know, and then that juice ain't worth the squeeze, as we say. So, we are out there. In fact, we have been doing an operation, I can say, because it's almost ending, but we have been doing an operation overnight for the past 3 weeks, and we've caught quite a few bad guys. I might add, and this isn't in no way pointing blame or, how should I say, an excuse, but in the process of law enforcement, there's also prosecution. So a lot of the people that we catch, they don't go to the jail. They go to jail for a night or two, but then because of charging criteria by the prosecutor's office, they're very often released within the next day or that day of. And it's not unusual we catch the same person in the same week. So it's a lot. There's no doubt about it. It's a lot going on, but the system has to be tweaked all along the lines. It's just not the police department. So I understand what you're saying. I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but we are doing a lot. We don't always share some stuff, and there's a reason for that. But yeah. So did I answer your question, or you got another one?
Somewhat. I'm going to make one last comment because I don't want to monopolize this meeting. Here's the problem. We have a choice of becoming Portland or San Francisco or Seattle. If we do nothing, if we don't communicate, if we don't have the community backing the police department with full knowledge and support, we will devolve into that kind of a hysterical mess. I don't want to see our community. I moved here because I love Hawaii. I've been here since 1976. And I think that, you know, I'm very protective of this land. And I think everybody on this neighborhood board is too. We need to participate with you. If you don't tell us, then it's sort of like nobody cares. And I don't want you ever to get the impression that this neighborhood board doesn't care and is not willing to toe the line or do the hard work that is necessary to not become Portland, Oregon.
Fair enough. I live here too. I don't want it to be like that either. So my motivation is yours.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anybody else from the board or the community who have any questions for the police department? Hearing and
Thank you.
seeing none. Thank you. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is the Board of Water Supply. Is Dominic or somebody from the Board of Water Supply here to provide a report?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. I'll make it quick. Not a lot to report. January 3rd, there was one 8-inch main break. This was in front of 2803 Lowry Avenue. Construction update. I know there have been questions in the past. We do have a construction project in the Makiki area, but I know there was interest in past meetings about updating the status of that. So our contractor is working on the Kalawahine waterline project, and they're currently working between Davenport Street and Wilder Avenue. So if anybody uses Pensacola to get down towards the post office area, just know that we are working in that area. We wanted to announce that we have increased our rebate program for low flush toilets. We were offering a $40 rebate on low flush toilet purchases, and that has been increased to $100. So there is a limit of 4 units per household or 10 units for commercial customers. So, you know, really trying to entice people to get out there and look into utilizing water efficient fixtures, low flow fixtures in efforts to conserve water. That said, I'd be happy to take any questions on behalf of the Board of Water Supply at this time.
Members of the board, any questions? Member Lumen.
Could you please repeat that? Is there $100 credit on?
Yes, it's now a $100 rebate for
Rebate.
WaterSense labeled toilets. So these are the 1.28 gallon per flush toilets. If you go to our website, www.boardofwatersupply.com/rebates, you can see a whole list of all the rebate programs we have there. It's more than just toilets, but that was the one that was recently increased from $40 to $100. So,
Wow. So I live in an 80-unit complex. So are you saying only 10 can get the credit or the rebate? Oh,
let me follow up on that. I'm not sure if each unit could look into, purchasing per unit as a separate dwelling. I think when we mentioned 10 per commercial, I think they were thinking more like a business,
okay.
a commercial business or entity. But I could find that out and get back to the board on that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other questions from the board? Members of the community? Hearing, seeing none. Dominic, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
Moving on, next on the agenda is the mayor's representative. I received a notice that the mayor's representative is actually out tonight. I'll just quickly read over the department issue follow-up that I received in the handout. So with the Manoa Banyan Court, follow-up with resident Kurashige's response update from the DPP about the second draft environmental assessment. The DPP distributed the draft environmental assessment to various agencies and stakeholders on December 19, 2022. The draft EA was published in the December 23, 2022 edition of the environmental notice. The public comment period closed on January 23, 2023. The DPP sent its comments to the applicant on January 23, 2023. Several other public agencies also commented on the draft EA, and procedurally it is now up to the applicant to respond to the comments received during the comment period and update the document accordingly. Then they would submit the final EA to the DPP for review. The DPP has not received a draft of the final EA. When a final EA is received, the DPP will make a determination either to publish a final EA and findings of no significant impact or an environmental impact statement preparation notice. If the former, the applicant could proceed to apply for a 201H affordable housing project. If the latter, the applicant will need to generate an environmental impact statement. The DPP's determination will be published in the environmental notice. Second point is regarding speeding along Manoa Road. Resident Lamb requested that HPD provide a police presence along Manoa Road and the surrounding areas to discourage speeding. District 7 officers monitored Manoa Road and the surrounding areas for speeding from December 13 to 18, 2023. During this time, they observed one vehicle speeding and issued a citation. Officers will continue to monitor and take appropriate action when violations are observed. And point 3, late night moped speeding. Member Bolsa reported moped speeding late at night from Manoa Valley. District 1 officers made checks of Tantalus but did not observe any moped speeding. Officers are aware of the situation and will continue to monitor and take appropriate action when violations are observed. So hopefully the mayor's representative will follow up on any concerns at the March meeting. Moving on to Councilmember Say's office. Is Councilmember Say or anybody from his office here? I'm not
Hi,
hearing.
sorry, this is Janelle from Councilmember Say's office. He apologizes and unable to attend tonight, but I'm here for any questions to take back to him. I did want to mention that the Honolulu Zoo is nominated for the USA Today's 10 Best Reader's Choice Award for Best Zoo. So if you go to honoluluzoo.org, you can vote for our zoo. I think we made it up to 4 right now. So please, you can vote every day. Yeah, I'm happy to take back any questions.
Do members of the board have any questions for Councilmember Say's office? Diane.
Yes, thank you. I was wondering, I remember them having, city and county has some kind of thing for roosters and chickens to get rid of them. Is there a way of doing it? There's a cemetery right across the street from the fire station. That cemetery, I went by there last weekend and I counted 25 roosters and hens, and of course chicks. And
yeah,
I was wondering, can they have someone go out there and, get rid of them? Isn't there a program or something like that?
Yeah, so our DCS department does have a program for feral chickens. However, that's only for city properties. They do have a reimbursement program for private properties, but there are certain qualifications that need to be met. But I can look up that information for you and send it to Chair Zane to disseminate.
Okay, so that is not considered, I mean, I don't know what that cemetery is considered, private property?
I believe so, yeah. But I'll double check on that.
Okay, I'm just surprised that that theater group doesn't complain about it or try to catch them. But, you know, their plays are always at night and all the roosters and hens go to sleep, so the roosters don't crow until 4 o'clock in the morning. And when you have 25 and it's getting worse, it's going to just multiply to 50 pretty soon.
Yeah, once that gets out of control, it's really hard to bring down. So um, I'll look into it and see how the city can help or facilitate the cemetery for removal.
Okay, do you know which cemetery I'm talking about?
Yeah, the one that's like kind of right across from Surge's, right by the theater.
Yeah, it's right in front of the theater.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Member Watson.
Thank you. Yeah, it's too bad Calvin's not here tonight, but maybe you can, can share with him what I'm going to say. But I watched the city council meeting where the city council unanimously approved the Pahoa Ridge housing complex. And except for the engineers and unions and I think two young millennials who wanted an apartment spoke in favor of it, and everyone else in the community was opposed to that. And, Calvin Say needs to listen to and take care of the constituents who elected him, right? He is our shepherd, right? And so when he spoke, he had the man from HHFDC say that 201H is a state law and this project qualifies. And then he talked about, well, we need affordable housing and not many developers want to build affordable housing. They all want to build high-end condos. And so really we need to do this. And I just feel completely offended that our council person took that position and said that and even acknowledged, well, some people won't be happy, but oh well. And it's devastating to our community. It's the wrong project, the wrong location. You take the project and move it somewhere else where you have land and you don't have congestion. And I just think he totally blew every one of us off in the community, everyone that he represents. And I just cannot stress enough how un-okay that is. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'll share it with them. I do want to reiterate that it was a state approved project. When it comes to the city is approving certain exemptions that is still through the state 201H program. So while yes, the city does approve the exemptions, I really still urge the community to reach out to your state legislators to work on what the 201H program does. I know there's bills in legislature right now trying to take the council out of any approvals whatsoever. So those are things that the community can really help as far as the council. We did have a zoning committee meeting today because these with Kuile and with Pahoa Ridge, it really does affect council member Say. He really does hear the community, and he wanted to kind of have a discussion with the council members. Like most of these projects are getting approved in District 5, and at what point do we say stop? We don't have the resources, we don't have fire stations, we don't have additional police, we don't have additional infrastructure. So he does hear it. I just want to assure you that he does hear it, and I will let him know your sentiments.
Thank you. But yes, he does hear it, and yes, they are occurring in District 5, and yes, we're overwhelmed. That's why our city council needs to say no. That's why Calvin needs to say no. Yeah, we have to go to the legislature, and they were sloppy when they did the 201H 38 and forgot to make it transit-oriented development focused by rail stations, which is what they were supposed to do when they were asleep at the wheel, and they didn't do it, and now we got this nightmare. Our immediate line of defense is Calvin Say, and he really blew us off. And yes, we'll try to get the legislature to fix their mess, but we needed him to stand with us because District 5 doesn't have the structures, even if it is a state law. And if the city council is just going to sit back and let an agency, the HHFTC, which is a state agency, say, oh yes, this qualifies, let's have the exemptions. We need Calvin to be our champion.
Yes, understood. Thank you.
Patty?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ellen. I completely agree with you, and thank you for listening to us, Janelle. I also want to express my disappointment in the decision that the zoning committee made. Although I know Kelvin did make an amendment, a CD1, but he knows that we don't feel that it was sufficient, and I understand the need, but it's just not a good location. It's going to be dangerous. It's just a terrible choice. And I wish that he could have rejected it back and have the developer redesign the building. I'm not saying not to build. I'm saying that they could build a right size of the building that won't cause such a record on the community. So I do want to express my very disappointment in that. And we work very hard to make our voices heard. And at the end, we feel like the developer always win. And I understand that's a state law. But to a point like Ellen made, the city council, the zoning committee has the right, has the ability to make changes or reject it. But that wasn't done. And I know he apologized to us at the meeting because I actually testified both in person, well, virtually. But same thing happened at Kui Lake Place. You know, apology after the fact doesn't really do much because the damage was already done. So I felt that that's not very acceptable. Yeah, I want to say a lot of people are very, very disappointed in the decision that was made. He could have shepherded that in a better way and not cater to the developer. And again, you know, it is a state policy, but the county has some ability to make some changes and make the right call. So thank you, Janelle. And if you can share our disappointment with Councilman Say, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, I will absolutely, Patty. And I just want to say thank you because I think it was through your advocacy that that even brought the amendments to where it was, because otherwise it would have, you know, been even larger. So it was through community engagement and people like you that, you know, even though it's not something that everybody's happy with, was able to pare it down quite a lot. So thank you for your engagement for that.
Yeah, just one more thing. Thank you. Just the way that once it's built, it's done forever. And there's example of where the developer, after the fact, they would do like sale for market, whatever. So we feel that once this gate is opened, the developer can do anything, and which is the danger part of this law, right? Now they're applying for affordable, and they do the very bare minimum number of units just to satisfy that rule. But once it's built, all hell breaks loose. I can promise you that down the road, these people is going to sell this unit because the reason why he wanted such a high tower, and I can tell you that because you can see Diamond Head very clearly from there. Reason why he's building a swimming pool, barbecue area, fitness center, parking, because that's how you can sell $1 million units. I got flyer from my realtor on, do I want to buy Kui Lake Place? I mean, it clearly say on the flyer that if you want to build wealth, buy Kui Lake Place, and they show like a beautiful view of Diamond Head. If the high cost was where the name is, the developer really truly want to be affordable, he would build like a very sensible low-rise building that doesn't have any amenities, because if you try to cater to or focus on the affordability of the unit, you try to keep the cost down. You don't want to build all these things, so then the people are going to end up paying more. Anyway, That's my piece, and I just wanted everybody to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
Thank you, Patty. Member Fox?
Thank you. I'll tell you why I'm very disappointed in Calvin Say. As a council member, you are supposed to research stuff that comes before the city council. There was clearly not a deep dive into what 201H actually says. Number one, there was a miscommunication by the state legislature regarding what transit-oriented development actually is. This particular project had nothing to do with transit orientation. And so what did the state consultant say? It was on a bus route, as if a bus route was traffic development. This is not the first time I've seen crap like this happen, because it's happened all over California. If you want to turn into California, then you allow this kind of garbage to happen without doing the research about what the actual law says. Also, there was no restriction in this development for a change of venue. This particular development, the developer itself has a reputation for changing what the project was meant for in 18 months. Came back to the city, DVP, lovely little group of idiots those people are, no offense, but they irritate me to heck, and changed apartment-oriented development into condominium development 18 months after the finish of the development. The city council should have done its research. Calvin Say should have done its research. Who is this developer? What is their track record? What did they say? Is this actually in transit-oriented development as the law says? Does this exceed the percentage increase requirement as 201H says? Actually, it exceeded it. And yet, the city council approved this, and no one had the balls to look at the legislation, see if this conformed to the legislation itself. Now, if I, as a regular citizen, can look at this stuff and say, wow, these are glaring exceptions to the rule, I would expect someone who wants to represent us to do that kind of research. Sorry.
No problem. I think there may be different interpretations because
No, there isn't.
we can agree to disagree on that, but I can reach out to you, Robert, and I can go over the items that you mentioned and the information that we received from the DPP and our DTS as well, and maybe we can figure out a way to clarify that language or to make it more clear for future developments.
Just to rephrase, okay?
Mm-hmm.
201H says development on a transit-oriented corridor. The only thing that goes near Pahoa Ridge is a bus line. Now, in order to be transit-oriented, that bus line must be there within 15 minutes every single time. That's the definition. And it's a national designation, which the state adopted. Our bus line does not reach that limit of 15 minutes. So again, it disqualifies merely by looking at what the definition is.
Well, I'd also be happy to work with DPP to have them come and do a presentation to the Manoa Neighborhood Board on the 201H process from what the city side is. And perhaps maybe from the state side, our legislators can bring people on and have like a robust discussion.
Well, I think it would be nice to at least challenge if they did a development and they just presumed that nobody was going to do the research before this discussion happened before the city council. I get it that city council members are not paid $400,000 a year like developers are. However, if you're going to take that job, you need to sit down and do the research for your constituents, or at least call your constituents and say, what do you think?
Thank you, Robert.
Member Bosel?
Thank you, Member or Chair Zane. I just wanted to sort of echo, I agree with all of the members who have spoken so far. And the only thing I would like, maybe tiny thing, is when Ellen said that, Member Say is our shepherd, I would clarify that he is our representative, and the community made its views clear. And if he is not representing us, that's a problem. That's all I would say.
Thank you, Whitney. I'll share that with him.
Members of the community? Hearing, seeing none. Thank you very much. Please
Thank
pass
you,
along
everyone.
our comments to Member Say.
Absolutely, will do.
Do we have somebody from Senator Fukunaga's office, or Senator Fukunaga, are you here? I am not hearing or seeing anybody from Member Fukunaga's office. Let's see. There's the report that was included with the items on the agenda, with the items for tonight's meeting. Just as a highlight, she introduced Senate Bill 3375, which brings the University of Hawaii's College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources together with the community, county, and state organizations to establish a wildfire prevention plan that includes Central Oahu, and is being heard by the Senate HTR/PSM and the WTL committees on February 8th. And there's also SB 2730 relating to transparency and SB 3215 relating to insurance, where SB 2730 would be to require mutual benefit societies to annually report on the compensation to each executive officer and board member. And the bill further requires that the information be available to the public to view and to duplicate. And SB 3215 authorizes an employer through its health benefits and under certain conditions to offer a high deductible health plan in conjunction with a health savings account, thereby giving its employee a cheaper monthly option. So those are the updates from Senator Fukunaga's office. And moving on to Representative Garrett, is somebody from Representative Garrett's office available tonight?
You got the real deal, Chair Zane. Thank you for allowing me to be here. Great to see everyone. We did convene the 2024 legislative session 3 weeks ago to the day. So we've been very busy with legislative hearings, as you can imagine. I did drop my February newsletter into the chat box. So this is the same one that went out to the district last week. So hopefully you folks had a chance to look at that. I just wanted to highlight a couple of district-specific bills. One, of course, is the Annual Capital Improvement Project, or CIP bill, setting aside or requesting millions in funding for our 3 area public elementary schools. I see that Mr. Ka'ai is going to talk about the housing situation at UH. So I did include a request also to redevelop the Hale Noelani complex altogether. As he'll explain shortly, I'm sure, these 500 units have been out of commission since 2017. And I was bold. If you don't ask, you don't get. So I did request $335 million to replace the complex. It's a big ask for sure. But if we're able to replace that and build 2 towers, we are looking at a potentially 1,500 units on the UH campus. I think that would have a lot of benefit to the surrounding communities. As you know, freshmen and a lot of students at UH aren't guaranteed housing because of the unfortunate lack of facilities on campus. So we have a situation where a lot of students are fighting with residents for very limited inventory. I'm sure you folks have many students who live around your homes, trying to have a place to live because, again, it's not at UH. So that is something I'm advocating for. I know Senator Fukunaga is not in, obviously, but we are trying to find a date in March to host another town hall where we can listen to the community and share all that we're working on at the legislature. And in closing, I know you folks, again, have a very busy agenda today with a lot of items on the for the presentation section. But one item that does concern me is the latest news regarding the acquisition of the former St. Francis Schools property. This is a reason I introduced a bill last year, House Bill 258. I was able to shepherd it through the House. This would have allowed the University of Hawaii to acquire it. I think that's a much better use for that parcel than potentially homes that we're hearing about in the paper. I know the developer committed to working with the community and is saying, she's still trying to figure out what she wants to do with it. But, she did make a $24 million acquisition for this cost. So I personally find it hard to believe that it's only going to be 60 units. I've heard from people in the community that, we may be talking about a private gated subdivision back there. People who drive along Pamoa Road or along the University Avenue corridor know how congested it gets in the AM and PM hours with traffic. This would only add to that. And I don't think we need, 1.5 to $2 million homes in that region. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the bill through the Senate, so we're here today. And I'm hoping that the developer will come to this neighborhood board, hopefully your March meeting, to kind of share what our plans are. Because I think it is important that we do focus on workforce housing and affordable housing. I understand the discussion we just had about Pahoa Ridge. There is, of course, going to be tension between, what's the appropriate site and, the need to deliver more units, because we do have a pretty substantial shortage when it comes to housing in the state. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that you folks will hear from the developer very soon about what her plans ultimately are for the site. So in the interest of time, I'll stop there and see if there are any questions today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Before I open it up to the board, just as a disclosure as well, I have been contacted by the developer for the St. Francis site today, and she has pulled out of the meeting in March. Apparently they need more time to prepare, so unfortunately we'll not be getting that update that we need from them on that St. Francis project. Representative Garrett, thank you for bringing that up and for putting it on our radar. Moving on to Member Watson first.
Thank you. Andrew, what if anything can be done either on a state level or a county level to say no more building of luxury condos? We're full. No more building of hotels. We're full. And then the developers can build affordable housing or leave the state and go develop someplace else. That's okay, because we don't need any more luxury condos. And we don't need any more hotels. And maybe what we should do for the hotel industry, and I don't know if this would be a governor thing or a state thing or how it would go, but the lowest 2 stories at every hotel should be affordable housing. Should be local workforce housing. The hotels have just pigged out in money, tap dancing on Oahu forever. So maybe they should kick in the lowest 2 stories as affordable housing, and they don't get to rent them out to tourists. And what would it take to have those kind of bold initiatives? Because you guys got to get some gumption. And what does it take to take 201 H38 and say it has to be along the rail line or the rail stations so that it's not in our neighborhoods? They're going to build 23 stories at Pahoa Ridge, 23 stories. And all the homes are around it are 1 and 2 stories. It's a huge tower, and the developer's concession was to go down to 23 instead of 28. And that apparently made Calvin happy, but it makes us not happy at all. And what are we going to be able to do about it? So seems to me if developers can't build high-end stuff, and hotels, the lower 2 floors have to be workforce housing, then we're in a step in the right direction. And we need you guys in legislature to fix the 201H so it's restricted along the rail route.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Member Watson. Raised a lot of good points there. I'm not an attorney, so I can't speak to some of the legal issues there, but I know, in terms of, property rights and, entitlements and all that, if people want to build, as long as they're compliant with current laws, they're typically allowed to. I just wanted to point out that, I did also introduce another bill that's not in my newsletter that would basically unwind the efforts to build a new Aloha Stadium. Because my concern is that, we really have a once in a generation opportunity there with that 100-acre site to do things right. I don't think we need a stadium that's going to sit empty 3/4 of the year. Right now, there's a project, they're seeking RFPs at this moment, and they're proposing to build about 3,000 or 4,000 units. If we got rid of the stadium, we could probably build like 10,000 or 12,000 units on that site. We have a rail line. That's obviously TOD in its purest form. So these are the kind of things I think we need to look at rather than nibbling around the edges with little infill projects here and there. If we can look at ways to bring, literally thousands of units online at one time focused again around workforce. The state owns a title to that land out there, so I think there are some opportunities. I'm not sure if my bill is going to get scheduled. There's a lot of interest in wanting to see this new Aloha Stadium get built. But I hear what you're saying. And there's been a lot of attention on a Senate bill that's been circulated regarding banning sales to non-Americans or outside investors. The Attorney General has come out and basically said that's unconstitutional. It can't be done. I know other countries have done it, but obviously we have our own laws to contend with. But there's a lot of people that are trying to figure out ways to tackle this housing issue because it's clearly the most important issue we need to address this session. But thank you for your comments, Member Watson.
Member Kawano?
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Andrew. I got your newsletter. Thank you for all the other bills that you have put forward with Manoa Stream and on all that cleaning up. My question, I don't know if it's for you. I was hoping that Senator Fukunaga would be here tonight. Is regarding the 201HC, the state law that's allowing, seems like it's running amok. Because it's a state law, according to the city council, they basically punt the ball back to the state to have that in place, and therefore they, using that as a loophole. How do you feel about that? And I'm not sure if you familiar with the background on it. Is there a way that this can be amended so they are required to do an environmental assessment for any project and really tweak that law so that we feel like there's a lot of loophole that developer using it to, build luxury high rise and go as tall as they can and disregarding the whole community.
Right.
I want to see what your thoughts are on that and how we could ask them questions.
Sure. No, thank you for that line of questioning. So my understanding was that 201H was set up to accelerate affordable housing. I wasn't aware that there was a provision that limited it to transit-oriented development. So I'll look into that to verify. But as you're asking if laws can be amended. I mean, that's what the whole legislature is for. Any law that's on the books can be amended. And I know that the concern when the law was passed was that there was not enough affordable housing. So they were trying to figure out what the right incentives were to accelerate that. Obviously, we might be in a situation today where the incentives are not quite aligned and that the community impacts are not given enough of a consideration in these approval processes. So, I'm personally trying to educate myself a little bit more about 201H and the impacts of it. There's always bills to try to modify it. One such bill, we've heard from the city council members in the past is about the short window they have to approve these projects once they receive it. It's right now they're forced to respond within 45 days, and if they don't, it's an automatic approval. I know there's a bill coming up in the housing committee that will expand that to 90 days, so it gives all the stakeholders a little more time to kind of catch their breath and review the projects and make sure we're very thorough in thinking through the implications and if this is really what the community needs. But yeah, any law can be amended, and it's really up to stakeholders to try to propose what those appropriate tweaks might be. Because I think we can all agree that we clearly need more housing, but we can't just keep rubber stamping everything just because we need more housing. But
That would be great. Yeah, another thing I wanted to bring up was a 45-day thing because it really ties their hand, and some committees only meet once a month, and there's no opportunity to revise any amendment because if you don't meet that time and have something passed, it's automatically passed, which is like the worst case ever, right? They're not taking any action. So I'm glad to hear there's some ordinance being passed for 90 days because that's give everybody a little bit more time to at least make a thoughtful decision. So I know there's lots of bills that was running around. So if we wanted to get something going to amend 201HC, what do you recommend, like the Manoa Neighborhood Board and other neighborhood board, to pursue that or have a working group or something to make some recommendation? Would it be the House of Representatives or the state Senate? I'm not familiar how this would work.
Yeah, it could be either chamber. Unfortunately, our bill introduction deadline passed on January 24th, and we're limited to basically working within the confines of the bill title. And we're not allowed to insert, you might have heard the term gut and replace, where you have a bill starting off in one form and then it turns up totally different. The Supreme Court struck that down. So unfortunately, we can't do anything through bills at this moment that hasn't already been introduced. But we do have resolutions that can be introduced for the next few months. And through the course of a resolution, we could set up a working group that would look at things like, all the issues you raise about the 201H process, convening stakeholders, and looking at it that way. And then we could come back in the 2025 session if there's any legislation that's provided. It doesn't, help you obviously and your neighbors with the Pahoa Ridge project. But, it could set up a process going forward.
Great. If you've been kind enough to keep us informed and guide us through this process, because, coming up, we might have the Manoa Banyan Court and also St. Francis School that in the work, and they might be able to use this to ONHC. So we wanted to get ahead of that. So if you can work with us, I'm sure everybody would really appreciate your effort. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Patty.
Member Fox?
Thank you. Something that occurred to me during this entire issue is the developer set aside, which is required for infrastructure improvement in the municipality. That means that almost 20% of the development cost goes into a fund that's supposed to be making larger sewers, better gas lines, storm drains, road improvements, parking improve. All this stuff is like required for the developer to set aside, right? And the city holds those funds. Big clue, guess what? The funds haven't been used for the infrastructure development. So here we have another development where we don't have an adequate sewer line to handle it. You would have thought with the major disaster we had in Waikiki with lack of sewer lines and bursting all over the place, that we would learn our lesson that if you are going to have a set aside, that the city would take the responsibility of making sure that we had the infrastructure in order to handle any kind of development whatsoever. So I wonder, is it possible to link approval of development with the city's responsibility to actualize the infrastructure that they took the money to create? Because the way it's right now, it's not in a separated fund and it's in our general fund. And they can spend it any way they want. And so far as I know, there's been no audit of this adequate to the cause. That seems to me like we're not keeping our agreements.
Sure. I can't speak to the city processes, but I did receive a email from our good friend Seth, who looks like he's on the call today, about school impact fees, which is assessed at the state level. There's a bill basically to repeal school impact fees. This is, a per unit basis. Developers have to pay into this fund to offset their contribution for the construction of new facilities. I just recently learned, serving on the House Finance Committee, that this fund has basically accrued about $18 million over the last several years, but the DOE has not expended one penny of that money toward new construction. And even, in the grand scheme of things, 17, 18 million, that's probably not going to get you much, because we're looking at high schools costing $100 million plus. So, there are ways to try to, make sure that the funds are being appropriated, or not just appropriated, but expended for their intended purpose. And, I just bring that as an example at the state level where, we're collecting money, but not using it for its, what it's supposed to be expended for. But thank you for the comment, Member Fox.
Thank you.
Members of the community, any comments? I'm not. Linda? Linda, you're still muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I just had a question, Andrew. My question is, we all know what building that kind of volume at St. Francis, the impact on Pamoa Road. And then where Pamoa Road feeds into that street that goes up to University.
Alaula Way.
Yes, thank you. Who makes the decision whether or not that is going to work? Is that DOT or?
I think it's going to be the city and county. There's probably going to be the Department of Transportation Services. I assume there's going to be traffic studies that the developer will have to conduct, and they'll have to make recommendations. And the city could put that as a condition, perhaps widening Alaula Way, or, I suspect the developer prefers to use East-West Center Road and cut through the university. But the university has their own interests as well too, and I don't think that's going to be a feasible option. So we'll have to see what the traffic consultants say, and then what the city does in response to that. Because Pamoa Road is very narrow as it is. Cars park on the street there. I don't think there's room, to handle that kind of volume if it ends up being more than 60 units in the end. But yeah, this will all be kind of vetted out through the city and county's review process.
Yeah. Okay, well, maybe, Andrew, and I know you will because you are so good about that. Keep us informed. At what point can we, express ourselves about that? Because that is a real no-brainer to me.
Sure.
There's the traffic on Palmoa right now is crazy anyway.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I'm going to try to get a meeting with the developer and see if I can get some additional information to share with the community. Because I think it's important that we stay informed, and I hope they don't just keep punting every month. But I'm glad that at least they reached out to the chair to, indicate interest. And hopefully, if March is too soon, hopefully April is the time they can come present to this board and share their plans.
In the meantime, we can have that item on the agenda at least, so that way opposition groups can also voice their public opinions regarding this project, or express at least views about the project, I should say. Member Bosel?
Thank you, Chair Zane. Do you make a quick clarification? Did they reach out to you, or did you reach out to them about speaking about the project, and then they got back to you about?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I said I would reach out to them. I have not heard from them.
Sorry, no, sorry. I was asking Chair Zane what
I'm sorry.
he mentioned this earlier. Thank you.
No, sorry.
Thank you,
So just to clarify, they reached out to put themselves on the agenda, and then they said that they told me today that they have to take themselves off the agenda for March because they need more time to prepare. Yeah, so that's the clarification point on that one.
Thank you. I guess one comment that I have, I don't know if Janelle Calvin Say's rep is still there, and Andrew, it sounds like Representative Garrett, it sounds like you're really championing the views of the community. But I think I have like a general comment to all of our representatives in the state and the city, which is I feel like I heard a lot, especially when I was following the MBC project and talking to DPP, from people in different departments, in city departments, state departments, representatives on both sides, that was like, oh, it's out of that's a city thing, that's a state thing, that's a this person thing, that's a that person thing. And I think the community's general plea would be for everyone to do what they absolutely can. And this is more a comment for, is Janelle still there, to relay to Calvin Say, because I feel like passing the buck on and consistently saying like sorry after the fact, as a member or a community member said earlier, really gets up people's gall if that happens over and over again. And there's a lot that individuals can do even outside their specific purview. And I think like a comment from a voting member says if he had voted along with the community's wishes on Pahoa Ridge or Kuile Place, which he was well aware of, that was completely within his wheelhouse to do at the time. But there's also, with MBC, there was a public comment period. And I know Representative Garrett, I believe you sent in a comment that's really admirable. And I would say that is an example for our other representatives to follow, which is to do what you can, even if it's outside of it's not the time when you're specifically supposed to vote on it, that's later down the line. Those sorts of things mean a lot. And I heard that specifically from DPP, from the agency who is, going to be taking in these EAs. They want the whole idea of the comment process, the whole idea of the state environmental review process is to hear from the relevant parties and the communities, individuals I know spoke out about that, but that would have absolutely been a time that they could have heard from, member Say as well, or, yeah. So just, I urge all of our representatives to use their voices in all the ways that they can and be creative in thinking about representing the community and, people's wishes. Thank you.
Member Koff has her hand raised as well.
Yes, I was wondering at this point if there's anything we really can do to stop that development at the Ridge, that it's already happened.
I'm not sure if that question is directed to me, but I believe they have all their entitlements in hand to proceed. The developer might need to secure some financing, so I guess that could always fall through. But I believe they have everything they need in terms of government approvals, but I could be mistaken.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that.
One thing I would like to say as well, real quickly on this, and other subjects that you brought up, is that it's important that that you're working with us and you're hearing the comments in the community, so that way you can try to help craft legislation that addresses our concerns, especially with the issues with the housing. I know briefly it was mentioned about that bill that gained a lot of publicity about restricting housing for only residents in Hawaii, and you mentioned that the AG's office said that it's not um, it's not viable currently, but it's only in its current form. And other states across the country have also um, passed bills restricting who can buy certain land in certain areas, and maybe just taking lessons from that and whittling it down or making it more specific. Starting to chip away at the problem instead of trying to do a big swath in the current version of the bill. That might be an idea to go about doing this. Speaking of which, as well, just as a heads up, we do have Julia from Congressman Ed Case's office also with us as well. If you can pass, Julia, if you can pass some of these concerns from Manoa along to Representative Case, and just see about if anything on the federal side could be done regarding this, we'd appreciate that.
Of course.
And I know you're not. I know it's not on the agenda, but if you have anything quickly to give us an update on from Representative Case's office, just real briefly, if he's made aware of these situations and is working with the communities on trying to address these um, issues that are coming with the state ledge, especially.
Of course, yeah, I could definitely pass any comments or questions that you folks have for him. I just wanted to share some resources. I've gone ahead and pasted some in the chat. I just wanted to begin by introducing myself. My name is Julia Anushevska. I work as a Ed Case here in the Honolulu office. As a general starting point, I always point people this way, but the case.house.gov website is a super great resource. In addition, I've added his quarterly report as well as the guide for community project funding. And then something else about the art competition for any high schoolers interested. And then my email address is also in the chat. So if you would like to reach me directly, I'm always open to connecting. And then, as I've said before, any comments or questions, I'll happily take back to Congressman Case and report back accordingly.
Right. Thanks, Julia. Moving on the agenda for University of Hawaii, Elmer. So if you could give us an update real quickly, and then especially if you can update us, especially on the student housing issues
Sure.
with University of Hawaii, we'd appreciate that.
Sure. I'll keep it short because I see you still have a lot on your agenda. Let me follow up real quickly. Patty Kwano asked about the calendar for the Lower campus. I did talk to the new AD. He has it as a priority, but he has other priorities that he work on, but he does have it on his calendar. Member also called me about potentially having some meetings on campus. Please let me work with the neighborhood board commission office because that's available. That is truly is available, so you guys can have that component. And then as for Bachman Hall, as many of you saw, it's pretty much open since November. They were putting in all of the facilities regarding data and electronics and so on. They slowly are moving in folks this month and next month. Just to let you know, all the furniture in there was donated to nonprofits, simply because it wouldn't have made sense to kind of put the older furniture back in there, and they were going to more modulars, which is a lot more inexpensive. But then let me get to the housing component. I put some simple data in the chat, but let me read it out for you. The number of beds we have for students, grads, and faculty on campus for graduates and undergraduates, we have about 3,100 beds available This is not including those in Noilani, and I'll get to that in a bit. At the faculty housing level, we have 237 units. Several of you guys know it's in the Manoa district. The one on Lowry Avenue, there's a total of about 156 units there, ranging from studios to 3 bedroom units. And then we have also the Wahila, which is our oldest faculty, which has about 66 units. Occupancy rate, just for you guys' information, in the fall of 2023, the occupancy rate for graduate, undergraduate was about 96%. It falls like that because sometimes students either drop out or don't want to live in there. So we try to fill it up when we can. And then this spring, we have about a 91% occupancy rate. We hope can do more, but we're working on that. As for faculty housing, we do not keep a matrix because they can move in and out throughout the whole year. But as of fiscal year 23, we had about a 98.9% occupancy. About 7.2 is because people are moving in or out, simply because of that. How many beds are we planning for the future? Let me do the easy one. Faculty housing, it'll be a while before we increase faculty housing. Now, let me get to the more challenging one, the student and graduate and undergraduate. With exception to Noilani, which I'll talk a little bit more in detail. We have no immediate plans to build new facilities right now for the University of Hawaii. And this does not include RISE and the faculty housing on Doe Street or the graduate students housing at the old Noah site. Those are actually run by private entities. They're private partner, private public partnership. So they would run it as almost like a regular apartment, but at a very decreased rental rate for our students and so on. Now, getting to Noilani, as all of you guys pretty much know, it's been unoccupied for about 7 years. We are working, and thanks to Representative Garrett and legislators, we are working with them to try to make that available. I was there when it was there, and I stayed in an apartment, so it was kind of disheartening to see it the way it is now. That is a priority of this, at least before president can kind of is leaving. But let's be honest, we do need to really work on it and so on. Outside of that, if we can deal with that, we leave something. I'm not sure what the plans are, whether to totally take it down and build a new facility there and so on. That is maybe a plan, but I do not know details. Once I do, I will share with the neighborhood board. But Chair, I am open for questions.
Thank you very much. Members of the board, questions? Members of the community?
Patty has raised her hand.
Oh, Patty, go ahead. Sorry.
I just want to say thank you to Elma, that's all. Thank you.
Welcome, Patty. Yeah, we've been working on this for a while.
I know. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thank you, Chair.
I have a question from Glenn in the chat. Let me kind of explain. There is a gate between the facility of the St. Francis and our property. Simply, there's a liability issue because that is a private property. We can't allow private entity or private landowner access to a public parking for their own easement to go in and out. Because of that, we have to put a gate there. And simply is if somebody goes right across using a road to go straight, if any accident happens on that road, they're going to look at the University of Hawaii because we are the deepest pocket, even though they may happen on outside of our property. So we actually put that gate there really just to make sure we are fair with our, if we do that, then we have to allow other private landowners access to our property for as an easement. But I hope that answers your answer. Yes, it has to be that way because we did have a metal gate, Glenn, that people smashed, literally drove through. And unfortunately, we had to do that. But that's the reason it's a concrete gate. Okay.
Ellen, you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Chair. Hey, Elmer, can we have our monthly board meetings at College Hill? And we don't have to fight campus.
I will work on that,
You
maybe.
know, the president doesn't live there and you guys keep it as just a event center for your favorite people, whatever. Why
Hey,
can't we hold our board
that's an
meetings?
interesting request. That's an interesting request. I would not turn that kind of stuff down too either. So yeah, that's a cool request.
That would be fun. Although parking's an issue around that area.
Well, you have to deal with the neighbors, and yeah.
Oh, everyone's part of the community over here.
Yeah. At least we don't have to fight campus. Yeah.
That's true.
Also,
Thank you, Chair. Elmer, can you clarify the campus? Would there be any issue with parking on campus if we were to hold our meetings somewhere on the campus?
No, actually, that'll be part of the agreement that we work out with the neighborhood board office.
Okay, so members could come and park on
Oh, yeah,
campus
yeah.
and
Yes,
get
that'll
out,
be
and it
worked
wouldn't
out
cost
within
them
the
money.
within
Okay.
the agreement.
Okay, thank you so much.
what
Welcome.
members of the community who are interested in attending in person as well, Elmer?
Yeah,
Is there a way
no,
that UH can
absolutely.
get that?
Yeah, well, maybe I think we can do that as well. Yeah, anything's open for us. Yeah, please.
Okay. Yeah, that would be great if you could look into that because that's was one of our stumbling blocks was.
Yeah. Yeah, before it used to be charged, but now I think we can work with the neighborhood board office to kind of make that happen.
Okay. I would imagine most months, there wouldn't be very many folks coming
Oh,
to
no.
park on campus.
No, there's some buildings that are pretty much available. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
And we have great internet.
Oh, thank goodness. Elmer, thank you so much for taking our questions.
No problem. Have a good night, everyone. Aloha.
Oh, wait, sorry.
anybody?
Hold on, sorry, Elmer.
Yes.
Member Koff has a hand raised as well.
Oh,
Actually.
sure.
Oh,
Sure.
hi. I just wanted to ask if you do have parking available, I'm going to request handicap parking be available for us.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we
Thank
have
you.
that in every parking area, as well as EV in every parking
That's
area.
great. That's great. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks, Elmer.
Thank you. Aloha, everyone.
Next on the agenda, Governor Green's representative.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Lacey Goshi, replacing Francine Murray, who was previously covering this board. And I'll be sure to send my contact information to everyone. I also just put the link to the governor's newsletter in the chat. But some highlights from that is Representative Garrett mentioned. 2024 session started, and Governor delivered his annual State of the State address. Governor's main priorities continue to be Maui's recovery, affordable housing, homelessness, healthcare, and climate change. But again, yeah, looking forward to helping to cover this neighborhood board moving forward, and happy to take back any questions and concerns.
Let's see. Members of the board. Member Koff.
Yes, I'm concerned about, personally concerned about our problems of homelessness, and particularly the violence and so on and social distress that accompanies that whole phenomena. And I think it is critical that we devote a lot of time and resources to really finding those solutions. So I'm very encouraged by your work. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'll be sure to take that back to the governor's office.
Member Fox?
Yes, thank you. I'm very impressed with our governor, and I'm grateful that he's doing something about homelessness. However, we have a huge disconnect between the federal government, the state government, and the local city and county government in terms of trying to create a pathway for moving homeless folks into housing. Particularly if you're on the streets and you don't happen to have an ID, the process of getting an ID is absolutely onerous. I did go up to the governor's office with my friend Corliss Lee and Laura Brewer from California, who were very much involved with the homeless issues, and I was also. We built something called the Multi-Service Center for the Homeless, where we required any business that had anything to do with the homeless to have a representative there so we could assist people in getting into housing and into the treatment they needed. If they were alcoholics or drug addicts or were veterans, for instance, or those services are so uncoordinated here. And I do pray that you'll get to the governor and say, look, there are resources. You can call me anytime. Corliss is willing to fly over from Long Beach, California, and assist in doing the development of that systematic connection between departments. She was an incredible engineer and did all of the stat research and development for Boeing aircraft. And she's devoted her life to the homeless services. And I do please, reach out to the governor and say, hey, look, there is a solution here. Mostly it's about information technologies that we really need to coordinate. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you.
Let's see, anybody else in the community who would like to provide comments to the governor's representative? I am not seeing anybody else. Lacey, thank you for your time.
I'll stay on for the meeting too. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the Manoa campus improvements. I know that we've had hopefully we have HHF planners here. Is somebody from the planners? I see that there's a screen share for Manoa School campus improvements. Is there audio? Mr. Jin Young?
Yeah, Jin Young.
Jin Young, do you have somebody, or are you able to have an operating mic, or is somebody from the office able to speak?
Yeah, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yeah, but my apologies. Yeah, I'm expecting to be joined by Shauna Tong, who is the president of Manoa School, and Lori Carlos, who is the director of communications and community engagement. Lori, I'm not sure if you're here. So let me let Shauna just make some introductory comments before I get started.
Thank you very much for giving us the time to just share some of the improvements we have. And one of the important things is that, always being a good neighbor. And so appreciate the time that you are giving us. And we're working with Gene. He's been very instrumental in putting our strategic plan aligned with our instructional philosophy into this. Thank you, Gene.
Yeah, well, thank you. So yeah, we wanted to share with the board some plans that Manoa is hoping to accomplish over the next couple of years. So let me just go ahead and get started. So the Manoa has two campuses. It has the grade school campus on about 4 acres between Wilder and Dole Street. So that's grades pre-kindergarten to 8th grade. And then it has the high school over here on Punahou Street by the H1 freeway, and that's on about 1.7 acres. The Manoa has also acquired approximately 3/4 of an acre on the Mackay side of Dole Street between Dole and Clark Street. And so the improvements that we're going to be sharing with you tonight covers these three sites. The Marino also has a small parking lot down here at Clark Street and Whitney. So I'm assuming that many of you are familiar with sort of these areas. Let me just this is the view of the grade school from Wilder Avenue. This is Sacred Heart Church, of which is part of the property, and then the administration building and K1 playground. So you can see here the grade school campus, the church, the gym, the classroom buildings, and then the administration building and Knoll building. And then these are 6 parcels that the school has acquired across Dole Street, and then the high school here that you can see a view from inside the campus looking out towards H1, and then the frontage along Manoa Street. So the current plans that Marino has includes making improvements to the grade school campus. Right now, a lot of the spaces you see on campus are primarily are dual use, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. This is a basement level parking below the gym. So these proposed new grass play field and then a landscaped courtyard between these two buildings. We'll go into a little more detail in a little bit. And then a off-site parking area to take care of parking that's currently between these two buildings. And then various landscape improvements and interior renovations to the high school campus. And we'll go into a little more detail as we go along. So right now, this is an existing parking map and open space map of the campuses. So here on the grade school campus, there's 101 parking stalls in the basement of the gym. These parking stalls are available at all times, weekday, weekends, for event parking. There's 8 parking stalls here at the admin building. And then there's 76 parking stalls on the blacktop between the church and the school. And these are spaces that are generally not available during the school day, but are available after hours and on weekends. And then there's 53 stalls that are in the area between the two buildings. And these stalls are used used by the school during the school day for student activities, and is only available on weekends and after hours for special events. And then there's 22 parking stalls in an offsite parking area down here. And then the high school has 51 parking stalls. So over time, you can see that the amount of green space on the grade school campus is very limited. And the intent is to increase the green space on the grade school campus, keeping the parking below the basement, which is used by the grade school faculty and staff, and then keeping the parking by the church, which is used primarily by the church after hours, and then relocate the parking that's between the two buildings into this offsite lot here. There's been a dog park that the school has volunteered has sort of converted one of its properties for use, and the school would continue that that park, on a good faith basis moving forward. So this is probably a better picture. I'm going to switch to this view here. So going back to 2017, this is kind of the picture of the grade school campus after completion of the gym around 2013. You can see that from the planning department's point of view, the majority of the campus is firstly a parking lot, and that the school has adapted for student use over the years. And there was a 3-story apartment building here. You can see that the amount of open space that was available, green space for student use, was very, very limited. This is the courtyard used by the church. So this is a picture of the campus as it is today. So around 2018, the Manoa bought this apartment, demolished it, and put in a grass playfield, essentially doubling the outdoor play area for the kindergarten and first grade. And then around 2020, it installed grass cell pavers in this courtyard area so that kids could have a grass lawn to play on. However, it is still primarily a dual use area, so that on weekends and weeknights, it's used for event parking. And then during the weekday, it's used as a grade school play area. So the two projects on the grade school campus are to create a new outdoor learning landscape courtyard that's dedicated solely for student use and is no longer trying to balance being a parking lot and being a children's play area at the same time. And then demolishing the admin building and expanding the grass playfield to encompass a much larger area. And it's part of this transition that Manoa has been since 2017 in terms of greening the grade school campus and expanding the outdoor use areas that are protected from vehicular traffic. This portion of the dual use area is currently used on weekday mornings as a drop-off area for the grade school. During the weekdays, it's used as a play area that's coned off for student use. And then on weeknights and weekends, it's used by the church and the school for parking. So there's no proposed changes to this area of the campus. The only proposed changes are in the areas shown in the dashed yellow. So this is a sort of a conceptual picture of the improved landscaped areas. This is the grass lawn in the area of the former admin building. And then this is the area that is that dual use grass cell paving and parking area that would then have shade structures to protect kids from rain, but also landscape shade trees to provide cooling, during the daytime as well. So one of the issues here is that this area is unbearably hot in the middle of the day, particularly during a bad Kona day, and is really subject to any kind of rainfall, and there's no shelter at all for the kids. So this concept provides areas like that for the kids. It provides additional seating and shade for for the high school kids who are coming to the gym, but today just hang out in the fire lane. So one of the things about the grade school campus is that the outdoor areas are predominantly used by students, but they were designed for cars. So the intent is to continually transform the campus and develop it as a place, for students. So these are some of the light, small pavilions that we're thinking about within that landscape courtyard. And then this is the view from over Alexander Street. You can see here a view of the existing community center and gym, the basement level parking, which is accessed from Alexander Street. Weekdays, all of the grade school staff parks in the basement area, but there would be no change proposed in this parking configuration. And in addition to the Wilder Avenue drop-off lane, there's a drop-off and pickup lane along Dole Street where that's entered into from Alexander. These were all conditions of approval that came out of the development of the MCC. Part of that included Marino stationing a traffic control officer along Dole Street during the peak peak times to help direct traffic. So there's no change to this area as well. So the proposed project here will be to demolish these existing residential structures, which are currently leased out to tenants, and to move the parking that's currently over here on the campus to here. So the parking here is going to be primarily for visiting and substitute staff, and then event parking as well. So during special events, for the church, they would park initially. They would first fill up this area, and then they would park in the basement, and then use this as the overflow parking. For events in the gym, the school would park initially underneath the basement, and then fill up this area, and then use this area as overflow. So this is you can see here an existing parking area that Manoa built about 20 years ago now, here at the corner of Clark and Whitney. The school manages it. It secures it after hours. It provides security to address any kind of loitering or nuisance type activities in the area. And the type of landscaping that you see here is the type of landscaping that is being considered for this parking area. We understand that this is essentially a central area among residential neighbors. With this project, the intent is to really exceed the minimum standards for landscaping of parking facilities within DPP. We recognize that, by doing this, we kind of lower the density within the area, but also we're in the view plane for surrounding residents, and so we're very conscious of providing shade trees, shrubs, low fences, low-level lighting, bollard-level lighting, not minimizing light pollution. It would be controlled and secured so that the Manoa would be responsible for maintaining security and addressing any kind of loitering or nuisance activities in the facility, and providing a small area for the neighbors who have come to really enjoy the dog park, and it's been a very important part of Manoa's relationship with the neighbors, and is looking forward to continuing that. On the high school campus, is very, very constrained. So the improvements here, the interior renovations are intended to address some of the functions that will be relocating from the admin building, and then some of the movement of student spaces, college guidance into the learning commons, and then other sort of more site landscaping type improvements, renovating the front yard, repaving the driveway, building a new rock wall along the freeway to provide a visual and acoustic buffer for students in the play area, and then a new landscaped courtyard. So this is a picture of some of those improvements on the high school campus. You can see the new rock wall, a small landscaped courtyard here next to future administration offices, repaving of the driveway, and then renewal of the front yard landscaping. That's sort of a picture of the courtyard. And these are, so the improvements, there's no expansion of footprint on the high school campus. This is all interior renovations to accommodate functions relocating from the administration, from the grade school campus, and as well as moving some functions from this building over to be more accessible to the high school kids. So all of these projects in total are expected to take over about 2 to 3 years to complete. They will need to kind of go in sequence. And so this is some of the phasing. The parking area would be developed first before we can vacate the parking and then complete the landscape improvements here. We make the frontage and site improvements on the high school campus, and then the interior renovations to allow for the demolition of the admin building and completion of the grass play field. So that completes our presentation. More than happy to answer any questions or provide any clarification. At this point in time, we'll open up for comments and discussion. Louise.
First off, members of the board have any questions? Member Chong.
I admire that you guys are planning to put in more grass than before. I always thought that the asphalt just was not good for elementary kids. The question I have is, because your campus is getting bigger, do you have any plans of putting like some kind of barrier so then people don't walk into your campus? You know what I mean? Just so that you protect your students in any way?
Yeah, the campus currently is secured, and there's a boundary fence and gates. So in that sense, that part of it won't be changing. And so, external visitors are required to check in to the grade school office, which will remain here on the grade school campus, or the high school office. And they're both sort of at the front door of their respective campuses.
So there's the barrier somewhere? Is that it?
Yes. So right now there's a fence along this perimeter. And then there's a fence along this, and there's gates at the various entrances. Shauna, do you want to talk a little bit about your security measures on campus?
Sure. So all of our teachers are sure to be trained. We're trained yearly and then always outside on the campus when children are during play. But we do have gates that we shut to deter foot traffic from going in and out. On the high school campus, we also are looking at improvements to the front, which also would improve the gated areas, but very cognizant of our student safety and a procedure for check-in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Boso.
Thank you, Chair. I know that you mentioned that you were looking at on the main campus or whatever, some permeable pavers, the new parking that's going in the 6 lots that are becoming primarily parking. Is that proposed to be just asphalt, or are you looking at porous asphalt or permeable pavers or grass block or anything?
We're definitely looking at permeable pavers. You can see here the tandem stalls. We're looking at this as a potential like low impact development opportunity to really as part of the Manoa brand to really demonstrate its commitment to green building and to being a good neighbor.
Okay, so and I know that you said on the high school campus that was meant to be repaved. Is that looking at maybe switching over from asphalt to something that's more permeable? I'm just curious if so. Okay.
Yeah, so the main driveway is a heavy use area. Right now there's actually no drainage in this driveway. And so one of the things that we're looking to do is to
swales.
Is to put a swale and put a trench drain so that reduce the threat of flooding. But if there's opportunities where we can direct that into like a rain garden, definitely, looking for those kinds of opportunities.
But still keeping the drive itself pavement.
Yes.
In that high use area. But apart from the tandem slots on the new lot, the rest is meant to be asphalt. Just the tandem slots are permeable.
Right now, just the tandem stalls. One of the things that's really worked well with the grass slope pavers is that the parking in this area is very intermittent.
Yeah.
So it's not one of the things that with grass slope pavers is that when it's used heavily, it's really hard to maintain.
Sure.
So on the high school campus, We are increasing the amount of pervious surface. We're hoping to convert a portion of this play court, which is no longer needed, into a landscaped courtyard.
Right.
I think part of the emphasis with this campus is to, it's a very hard, very urban environment if you've ever been in it. And so with the new natural rock wall and the landscaped courtyard is to provide more of a oasis for the kids, that sort of a landscape oasis from the urban setting that they're in. Right now, because of its location and the lack of a barrier, you can see in this photo, it's a very hard environment. And when you're standing here, the freeway just sounds like it's right in your front door. So the idea of putting a natural rock wall here to visually screen it, and then providing landscaping where we have the opportunity to do so.
Thank you.
Michelle.
And so before we go to Michelle, and open up to community, I know that the board was, I was approached and I shared materials on the Google Drive from Luis Lanzalotti. Luis, did you want to speak about what you wanted to talk, or the issues you have? Luis, are you there?
Luis, you're on mute. Luis, your mic is still showing as you're on mute.
While we're waiting for Luis, I'll recognize Michelle at this time. Michelle, are you there?
Hi. Yes, I'm here, and I think because Louise and I were both working on this together, and I know that she had a map that she had thrown up. So I guess what I can do is, I don't know if she's still talking, but we did submit a written paper for the board to go ahead and consider. I don't, just really quickly,
I'm actually trying to be unmuted, but I don't know how to do it on WebEx. I've never been on WebEx before. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Yes, I can hold the space bar down, but I want to share this, I want to share some content with my screen, so I will do that.
Okay, I'll go and stop sharing my screen.
Okay, so here goes my screen. Okay, share. Yep. Okay, so I'm from the TRA board, which is the building right next door to Marino, right here, this building. And we share, we're both on the corner of Dole and Alexander. And, I got this map off of maps.com, and it says heavy traffic in the area. And I wanted to say that one of the major reasons that we are opposed to this particular project is that this is a major site of all the traffic from Waikiki comes here to go on H1 West. All the traffic from Punahou goes out. All the traffic from Manoa comes down, and a lot of it goes on the freeway here and coming up from town and over. So this particular street, Dole Street, is highly, highly crowded a lot of the time of day, and sometimes even in the evening. And so we had some major concerns about it, and I don't want to go on too long. You answered a couple of my questions, but I noticed that one thing that I noticed is that the entrance or exit is right here, right next to the entrance and exit at the TRA, and right next to your exit. That will further increase the bottleneck that happens right here from all these cars coming in every direction. It's just really, I don't see how we can add another 90 parking spaces on this particular street. I sent a long thing to not long, a good a piece of paper to the board with a lot of questions, and we do have questions for you about some of the things we don't know, like if you would use the lot in the daytime. Yes, it sounds like you would. You'd let people use it for substitutes and visitors. And so that means it will get used during this really heavy traffic time. It's just really not a great idea for it to be next to all the bedrooms on this side of the TRA, face this parking lot. If you're using it for events at night, you'll have people parking in it at night and crossing the street and making noise. And I don't see any provisions for a wall between us so that we won't get all the noise. And also the neighborhood itself is being cut up into these, you know, the housing is getting taken away, the possibility for housing, and being turned into what is sort of like a commercial thing. A lot of the things that you're doing on the school sound very good, but a parking lot does not sound good to me. And I think the residents of Manoa all come down, all of us get on the H1 right there. So that's a really short bit of what I was going to read to you, but maybe Michelle would like to add some more things.
Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. Should I continue? This is Michelle.
Yes, you can go ahead and continue.
Okay, Louise, can you leave that up? I just, as we kind of look at this, and one of the things that I was kind of struck by, whenever for the Marino School presentation, which is truly a beautiful presentation, how can you not be enchanted with what they're doing, is the absolute lack of cars on the street. And I really do challenge anybody to come down anytime during the morning or, you know, in the afternoon and try to get through this area. If you don't think it's a problem, one of the things we could do is close the Alexander Street exit and have all of the Waikiki traffic, all of the Punahou traffic, all of the Manoa traffic try to get out on the Punahou exit. And that's the volume of traffic that we're dealing with. Our traffic is so bad that actually, if you go up Dole Street toward McCully, the Waikiki traffic that's coming out onto Dole Street is literally making illegal turns left onto Metcalf. And people are almost getting hit head on there at that McCully, Metcalf, Dole Street exit because people don't want to wait coming down Dole Street just to get on the freeway. So this area is so heavily congested, and then putting their exit 70 cars right next to ours, you know, Marino does try. They hire a sheriff, recognizing that their traffic is bad, but they literally cannot control the public, and having the public swarm the area. The public is using the, you know, there used to be designated parking on Dole Street for the neighborhood to use. Every morning, the neighborhood has to move. Why? Because the public needs to use the streets. Okay. Every night we have to move. Every afternoon we have to move because of school traffic. So there's a continuous do this. But then whenever there's a school event, the public gets to park in all of the designated no parking zones. The neighborhood doesn't get to use it, but the school does. So there's a continual, you know, taking away from this neighborhood, and you can see how our little community is literally being isolated. And I think in one of the things that, you know, kind of rang in my ears, and, you know, is there was two words that, you know, I think we should take away from this, is that Marino is continually transforming. And that was the word that was used. Marino is continually transforming. They're continuing to grow out and consume the neighborhood. And these are people's homes. So I just wanted, for that reason, you know, we oppose this type of consumption of our block, because there were homes, there were apartments, there were neighbors that were there, and now they're putting up a parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else from the board or the community have any comments, questions regarding this project at Marino School? Diane.
I live in Manoa, and I would not go down that street, Alexander Street, to get onto the freeway. If I was coming from Manoa, I would go to the one that's right next to the high school. I think it's very rare that I would ever go down that street just because of the congestion. I don't think it's Manoa that's going down there. We have entrance, by university, and we have entrance by the high school. I do not use that entrance very rarely. I think maybe once or twice a year, but it's not Manoa people coming there. It's probably Marino, Punahou, parents that are dropping off kids there, and Waikiki. But I don't believe Manoa is going to goes on that because there's just so much congestion that you wouldn't go there. If you know that area, you would not go on that street to get onto that freeway. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Any more comments, questions? I am not seeing or hearing any additional comments or questions at this time. To all of our presenters tonight on this issue, thank you very much.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry, who is this?
Sorry, this is Louise again. This is Louise. I don't know how to do the hand. I don't know if the neighborhood board is supposed to weigh in on this in terms of saying that they approve it. I don't know what the responsibility of the neighborhood board is for this. And, we are in Manoa. Those of us who live down here, we are in Manoa. So I'm just saying. So is the board supposed to weigh in on giving permission?
That would be up to like something like a resolution. Oh, sorry.
No. You were saying, Member Bosel?
The process that we usually do in terms of the board weighing in on something, Ms. Lanzalotti, is for a member to write a resolution, and then that is sent out to the members of the board to peruse before the meeting, and then we would vote on it during a meeting, whether, to approve or not approve a project, and then that is usually transmitted to whoever the stakeholders are. There's going to be a resolution later on in this meeting, so you can hear that process. But that's usually the way that we weigh in officially as a board on something.
And for clarification as well, Ms. Lanzalotti, we did receive your comments regarding it, but I read through it again just while during this presentation as well, and they were comments, not a proposed resolution for the board's review. And so I just want to make that clear regarding that. And we really do appreciate your thoughts. And this meeting was more for an introduction for us as well, to learn from not only the developers, but from you as the community members involved in the situation as well. So that's why we really appreciate the comments that you shared, as well as the comments made by the developers for this project. Member Watson.
Thank you. Basically, when a developer comes and presents to the board, they're just checking the box of a requirement that they have to do. And it's just kind of humbug, but it's that way that they just come and they present, and they're able to check that off of their to-do list, whether they are earnest in their presentation or care about the community or not. And that's just kind of my take on it. That happens across the board for developers, that they just need to check a box that say they presented to the neighborhood board. And so they're just doing their punch list. But, I sympathize with you. And I guess I don't know what the recourse is for you, other than if a board director wants to work with you to make a resolution like Whitney Bozo was talking about. That's the only way that I know to proceed. So that I was just giving you my information, that's all developers come and they just do this, and they check the box and put that in their application and say, see, we talked to the community. right? So kind of thing, yeah, okay.
Member Bolso? Whitney, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Chair, I don't know whether you've already been in conversation with the developers or Marinol School to see whether they would be willing to, the fact that they incorporated the dog park, I wonder if they have, you know, hearing the issues about the traffic on that street, maybe they're able to rearrange the plan for that site, or I'm not sure whether they've considered it. You know, it sounds like you sort of object to the property being used solely for parking, essentially apart from the dog park area. I'm not sure whether they considered, you know, doing something like they've got with the gym, where they've got the parking down below and they develop a one-story, you know, building for. But you know, you might look at starting a conversation directly with Marinol and the planners of this project.
Well,
Apart from
Good idea.
they're
Yeah,
here
we
now.
just found out
Any
about it a
comments?
few days ago, so that's why we're here.
No,
We just found
absolutely. And again, this is a good opportunity for everybody to sit down at the same table, hear everybody's views on it, and this is a good starting point right now.
Thank you
A-
so much
In the
for
mean,
letting us.
no, absolutely. Thank you for your comments. In the meantime, though, Marinol Schools developers, any comments regarding Member Bolso's questions and the issues regarding the parking along the streets that was discussed just now?
Yeah, I think that we're still very early in the process. Marinol is very interested in being a good neighbor, and is willing to work with the neighbors in terms of designing a buffer, reconfiguring, you know, driveway locations. One of the things is that the alternative to this is that the site is zone A3. So a developer, and you know, Marinol is not a developer, it's a private school, but in lieu of a high-rise apartment, so you know, they can build high-density apartment. One of the things about the parking area is, I think Marinol would be really interested in working with the neighbors to build it in such a way that it's very garden-like in its setting, and to green it in as much as possible, and to configure the driveways to minimize impacts. One of the things is that the parking that's expected to be in this area is going to be controlled by Marinol, and it's not expected to be a lot of the peak traffic that's coming from Waikiki, you know, early in the mornings, AM peak, PM peak. The traffic going to this parking lot is not the primary. It's not the primary parking lot for the Marinol School staff. That parking lot is already in the gym in the basement, so that doesn't change. So the staff that would be coming to this parking lot would be coming intermittently throughout the day. So it's not, and it's probably going to be somewhere in the 15 to 20 car range. The after event parking, you know, again, it's primarily overflow to what's happening on the campus, and it's happening currently today. So the intensity of activity on the school campus is not expected to change. So it's really moving the overflow parking that currently exists in between the two school buildings to this site. So, and I think the school will be more than happy to meet with and continue to work with the neighbors to address any concerns that they have. Shauna or Lori, do you want to add to that?
Just that we've really come a long way in being good neighbors if you've lived there a while. You know, many of the neighbors at Tiare have Lori or I personal. Ray, he calls us whenever there's a problem, and we, you know, solve it immediately. Just know that I understand when you said, you know, someone was very eloquently saying about the process and checking off a box, as perhaps that is part of the process, but I hope that you know, Marinol really has made many efforts to become good neighbors and to listen to the community's concerns, right? This is all about giving the children more green space and a better learning experience.
Yeah, and one of the challenges for Marinol has been that if it can't relocate some of that parking off of the grade school campus, then the kids, the kids will continue just be playing in parking lots. And, so this is just one way to, without, while still keeping the primary parking for the school and the church on site, this is one way to offload the less impactful parking from the school. Michelle, you had a question.
Thank you. I think, yeah, we want to be neighbors. We believe it or not. We also watch the school at night for you. You don't have a barbed wire fence around the school. You know that. And it was earlier, I was really heartened to hear the board members whenever they were trying to, especially Member Fox going after HPD, and because we are getting an increased number of houseless people in the community, both on your campuses and on our property. And so we watch each other. So not to take up the board's more time, but is there a way that we can also get, how can we get in touch with you and get, our board? Because, yes, we do feel for you, but we just are very, very, very concerned on our side. And we were taken, to be honest, we were taken aback when it just by happenstance, we got the one mailing about the development. And it was it was addressed to the condo master. And just by happenstance, it ended up in my mailbox. That's the only reason why any of the neighbors knew anything about the development. So yeah, we didn't know anything about it. So that's it. It really just was it's a very sensitive subject for us.
At this point, due to the time, we only have less than an hour left at this point. I'm going to have to end discussion on this issue. So thank you very much to everybody who has made presentations on this subject. Moving on the agenda, I know it says that there's a Paradise Park update on the presentations, but I'm going to take it down order for the time being, try to see if we can move the agenda along real quickly due to the time constraints. Just want to make a real quick shout out if anybody from, because I know it's been talked about affordable housing. There was it was asked to put on the agenda somebody from Ike Nakea for the Kukala Hale Place project. Is anybody from the developers for the Kukala Hale Place available at this time?
He's here.
I have a raised hand from Elton. Not sure what that's in regards to.
Thanks. Elton, sorry.
Yes, Chair, I've had my hand up for a long time. Could we?
I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
Could we move up the resolution and have that be the item that we discuss now? Because we have a lot of people waiting for that, and
No, I agree. That's why I wanted to try to see if anybody was there. If not, I was going to move on straight to that agenda item. That's literally all I'm just trying to do, just because we need to move on this agenda really quickly. So that's why I was trying to make a call, because I didn't see them on this, that developer on there. Jolyn, I see your hand raised regarding that. I know you wanted to make that announcement. Please make it really quickly. Oh.
Hi, sorry about the ugly background. The chair kindly made some time for me to mention the Senate Bill SB 3047 that is being heard tomorrow before Joint Housing Environmental Committee. So this bill, I just want to read the purpose. It's to exempt affordable housing projects within the state urban land use district or up to 15 acres of land in the state agricultural land district from current environmental assessment.
If you could just let us know
The
when the
bill is
meeting
not
time
the
is.
clearest thing, but it to me exempting existing environmental assessment requirements is not the way to go. Affordable housing is necessary, but we want those new residents to be safe as we do existing residents. So I would hope that if you guys have time, it's at 1:05 tomorrow. It's a SB 3047. Thanks.
Excellent. I don't see the person who contacted me from that organization regarding the additional discussion about the Kuala Hale Place project, in which case I'm going to move on the agenda to the resolution for the Bahora Ridge project.
Chair Zane, he's here.
Yeah,
He's here?
sorry about that. Yeah, I came in person. Yeah, but I'll make this super quick. I just wanted to make an announcement.
Chair Zane,
Sorry.
can we move to the resolution right now?
I have to, at this point, I know you, I'm going to ask for your patience if you don't mind. I'm sorry, because we do have to get to this resolution due to the time constraints regarding it. Do you mind? I do apologize for taking out the agenda. And I see that you're here at the holiday. I really appreciate it. If you could please be patient for a while, we just go through this resolution as soon as possible, as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Thank you for your understanding on this. Elton, go ahead and we'll go with the presentation real quickly on the resolution.
Okay, I'm turning this over to Member Kawano to present and read the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Member Fukumoto. I would like to call on Dave Wachase if you'd like to give a quick presentation and then we'll go through the resolution.
Really quick, please.
Yep. Dave, would you be able to do
Hello,
that?
everyone. Chair Zane and Manoa board members. I'm going to share my screen quickly. I just want to point out a few things. I did email you my testimony. I think is self-explanatory. I think the resolution is also self-explanatory. So if you did go through it, I think you'll know what the concerns are and what the board is seeking. But I wanted to point out a few things. So, basically some things that you might not be aware of regarding the land use ordinance and how it protects the community and neighboring properties. And also to understand the exemptions that the developer is asking. And he's really asking for a lot. It's beyond normal. In fact, probably the zoning and the land use ordinances have been in place probably my whole lifetime. The neighboring homes probably were built before I was even born. This illustration right here, which is a rendering provided by the developer, shows a cross section from one direction of the building window. So if you can see my cursor right here on the left, this right here is the building window, and everything outside that window is exempt. Okay. You would also notice on this particular building, they did adjust it to the 210-foot height limit. I mean, the height of their CD1. It was originally, I think, over 260 feet tall. But by comparison, the neighboring home, which is 18 feet away, is this little house down here in the corner. Okay, so this is on the east side of their property line and right here. One of the main exemptions is the developer is going to a zero lot line, meaning he can build his high-rise condominium on the property line. with 0 setback. And that definitely impacts the neighbors. So if you look at right here, typically this building, what I want you to focus on is the footprint of the building. And basically it consumes 85% of the total property size. There's 15% open space. If you look at it, most of it is driveway. So this property is probably over 95% hard surfaces. You'd also notice on the top side of this rendering, the house is only 5 feet 9 inches away from the building, because this building is built on the property line. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down, and what I wanted to point out was right here. This house right here, that's 5 feet 9 inches away from the stairway. If you look at it on this rendering right here, this stairway, and this is actually 260 feet, so you'd have to go down to 210 feet. So around here, but this stairway is on the property line, and it's 5 feet 9 inches away from this person's house. Okay, this normally with the existing land use ordinance and zoning would be impossible to do without the exemptions. Okay, so HHFDC made a determination that this project had minimal impacts, therefore was exempt from doing a environmental assessment. And you know, if you look at it, there definitely are going to be impacts to the neighbors, let alone the whole neighborhood. Okay, and the whole neighborhood is filled with 1- and 2-story wooden homes versus having a gigantic high-rise like this with 200 something parking stalls, right, and 182 units. Okay. Then the other big thing I want to point out is you might think, well, this is A2 zoning and they can build up to 150 feet. They're only asking for another 60 feet higher. In most cases, if somebody were to develop that property, it would probably only be 4 stories high. And the reason why is the buildable area is 40%, and they're asking for 80% exemption. So 40% of 20,000 square feet is 8,000 square feet. The floor area ratio, in other words, the maximum floor that they can get would be 1.5 times 20,000 square feet, and that's 30,000 square feet. So if you divide the 8,000 into the 30, as an example, you probably put 4 floors, 7,500 square feet per floor, and you'd max out at your 30,000 square feet. So if you look at this little diagram I drew, illustration on the left, this would be an example of a 4-story apartment complex, right? And the red is basically the standard setback, and you can move this around anywhere, within this area. But as you go taller, you would actually have to reduce your buildable area because you're maximizing the 3,000 square feet. So if, for example, they wanted to go 15 floors or 150 feet, okay, that would really only allow you 2,000 square feet per floor, which is really not economical to build. So most people would go 4 stories,
Dave,
and make the buildable area as big as possible.
Dave, I'm
But-
sorry. I'm gonna have to cut.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
but
gonna
they
have to cut
could
you
go
off.
bigger. So what I wanted to point out is if you look on the right, even if they went higher, the setback would be a lot further away from the neighbors, and there'll be less impact. And what this developer is doing basically is he's using every square inch on his property to build a high rise, and that's to me having a negative impact on the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Really quickly, Elton, let's bring up the resolution.
Member Kawana is going to read the resolution. Member
Yes,
Kawana.
yes, we'll do. Can you see the screen I'm sharing?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. Okay, resolution concerning the Pahor Ridge Affordable Housing Project, Manoa Neighborhood Board, February 7, 2024. Whereas on December 14, 2023, the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation, HHFDC, reviewed and approved by Ridge Costa Development Company, LLC, the developer, application for exemption from statute, ordinances, and rules pursuant to Section 201H-38, Hawaii Revised Statutes for Pahor Ridge Affordable Housing Project. And whereas the project is located at 2779 Waialae Avenue, Honolulu, directly across the Waialae Avenue's H1 West Freeway on-ramp, and directly across Kalele Road used by the University of Hawaii at Manoa, with a land area of approximately 20,295 square feet, with an existing 6 apartment units and zoned apartment 2, 8-2, and whereas the project is adjacent to and surrounded by a community consisting of mostly 1- and 2-story wooden home structures. And whereas on July 28, 2023, HHFDC provided a determination that the project is exempt from the preparation of an environmental assessment, EA, pursuant to Section 11-200.1-15 Hawaii Administrative Rules, HAR, because it fits within the exemption for affordable housing set forth in Section 11-200.1-15 C10. And whereas that does not end the inquiry because, according to 11-200.1-14C, if the proposing agency determines through its judgment that the action will individually and cumulatively probably have minimal or no significant effects, and the action is one that is eligible for exemption under subchapter 8, another name for 1-200.1-15, the agency may prepare an exemption notice. In other words, before an agency can exempt a project, it must determine, 1, from a board general perspective, the action will have minimal or no significant effects, and 2, that the project also fits within a specific exemption in Chapter 8. And whereas, moreover, even within Chapter 8 itself, there is a warning that all exemptions under Chapter 8 are inapplicable when an action that is normally insignificant in its impact on the environment may be significant in a particularly sensitive environment. And whereas on January 24, 2024, the City Council of Honolulu Council approved Resolution 24-9 CD1 that reduced the project to a 23-story building, 210 feet in height, 182 dwelling units, and up to 217 parking stalls. And whereas testimony submitted for Resolution 24-9 CD1 raised traffic and safety concerns with the close proximity to the Waialae Avenue's H1 West Freeway on-ramp, the Kalele Road access to the University of Hawaii sports facilities and parking lot, the short street frontage, and sharp turn just prior to the project. And whereas Resolution 24-9 CD1 requires LUO exemptions for the maximum buildable area of 85% instead of 40%, floor area ratio FAR of 7.49 instead of 1.5, up to no side and rear setback instead of a minimum of 10 feet with additional setback requirements of 1 foot per 10 feet of height, and encroachment to all building envelope requirements. And whereas the developer received an exemption to build with 5 times the current maximum allowable density, FAR 7.49, of which would otherwise require a property the size of 100,000 square feet. And whereas the developer received an exemption to double the allowable buildable area of 85%, resulting in only 15% of open space, of which is mostly paved over with concrete. And whereas the developer received an exemption to build 60 feet above the existing 150 feet height limit. And whereas the developer received an exemption to build with a 0 setback requirement, meaning a neighboring home is 5 to 9 feet away from a 210-foot vertical building. And whereas the developer received an exemption to the setback of the buildable envelope, and whereas the combined LUO exemptions in this case multiply the negative impacts of building higher, which under A-2 zoning would impose a maximum limit for a building footprint to 40% of 20,295 square feet, which is approximately 8,000 square foot, limiting the FAR to 1.5, which will be approximately 30,000 square feet, and a minimum setback for a 150 feet building to 10 feet to ensure that the higher the building, the further the setback and smaller the buildable footprint. And whereas most developments with A-2 zoning would consist of 4 stories with 8,000 square feet per floor, taking full advantage of the full buildable area, and would end up being a low to mid-rise project with acceptable setbacks, so not to negatively impact the community. And therefore, be it resolved that the Manoa Neighborhood Board Number 7 finds it difficult to understand how a project the size of Pahor Ridge, sitting on a small site relative to the building size, located in such a heavily trafficked area, and constituting such a severe potential traffic hazard, can be exempt from the EA process. And be it further resolved that the Manoa Neighborhood Board asks that the HHFDC review its granting of an exemption from the EA process to the project to allow it to correct an error that it may have made. And be it further resolved that this board requests that the HHFDC engage with the adjacent property owners who are most impacted by the exemptions in the City and County of Honolulu's Resolution 24-9 CD1, and be it finally resolved that copies of this resolution be transmitted to the State Attorney General, the State Office of Environmental Quality Control, and the Environmental Council, the HHFDC, State Senator Les Ihara Jr., and State Representatives Andrew Garrett, Scott Nishimoto, and Bertram Kobayashi, the Mayor and Managing Director of the City and County of Honolulu, and the Chair and members of the Honolulu City Council, and the Chair and members of the Diamond Head, Kapahulu, St. Louis Neighborhood Board, the Makali Mo'iliili Neighborhood Board, and the Kaimaki Neighborhood Board.
Thank
Do I
you,
have a
Chair.
motion
To the
for,
left,
do I have a motion
to
for
the left is a
discussion on this
rendition
issue?
of the high rise.
I need a motion
Zane,
to,
this is Dave. I'm making a motion to approve this resolution.
I second.
second, open to discussion. Any comments or changes regarding this resolution?
I just want to say one thing. If we look at the picture, a picture is worth 1,000 words. If you look at the size of this building, I live on a lot that's 7,500 square feet. So 2 of my neighbors plus me, that's this 23-story building on that kind of property. It is completely inappropriate for a lot of that size. And the second thing is there's a blind curve right before there. And I fear that it is a huge traffic hazard. So those are my 2 points. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any, is there anybody who has any changes, proposed changes to the resolution?
Chair Zane, can you tell me who's second? I couldn't tell.
I seconded.
Member Watson.
Member
Watson?
Cobb.
Okay, thank you.
I just,
Member Koff?
I just wanted to add that I was disturbed that our representative Garrett seemed to feel there really isn't anything we can do to stop this project. I certainly would, I'm in favor of this resolution, but I'm wondering if anyone here has any insight as to what it might accomplish at this.
That's I understand your concerns. However, I'm going to have this discussion focus purely on the language of the resolution in order because we only have half an hour left and we have a lot to get through left.
Okay.
All right. Do we have any comments, questions regarding the language? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair Zane, you need to have everyone have their camera on. We can't just
have
it off. So
Patty, if you can turn off your screen share as well.
yeah, that also. Thank you.
Yeah.
Chair
So
Zane, can't you just ask if there's anybody that opposes it?
Yeah.
If not, then it passes unanimously, so nobody has to try to say aye and be unmuted and all that.
fair enough. Fair enough. Does anybody oppose the resolution in its current form? Hearing none, this resolution is passes by unanimous consent. Please make the appropriate changes. And we'll go back on the agenda to item 4C regarding affordable housing development. The presenter for the Kuala Place, forgive me if I'm butchering the name. I do apologize. I thank you for your patience regarding this because of the resolution. I've also been made aware that there is somebody in attendance that interested in joining the neighborhood board. We first do need to hear the presentation because this is an issue that's been significantly of interest, and we will try to get to that person at the end of that presentation.
Okay, yeah, aloha, Chair and members of the board. My name's Keegan Flaherty. I'm here on behalf of Ikenakea. We're an affordable housing development company that does affordable housing developments across the state. You may know us. We just completed a project in Mo'iliili next to the Wailua Shaved Ice. It's called Haole Makana o Mo'iliili. It's a 105 unit kupuna rental housing project for kupunas that are 60% of the area median income. That's the AMI and below. So that's 100% occupied. We just finished that this summer. But I'm here to just give a quick announcement. We're going to be holding a town hall, and that's the information that you're seeing presented on the screen. I'm just here to make an announcement about this town hall. We want to have this town hall. It's at Central Union Church to essentially, solicit feedback. Obviously I've been sitting here this whole meeting and there's a lot of sensitivity regarding residential projects, and we want to be sensitive, and we're sincere about that. And us conducting a town hall is not a check the box requirement for developers, but we want to do that. That's why I'm here making the announcement to let the community know. We're going to be sending out mailers to neighboring property owners that are going to go to all of the residents within the surrounding community to let them know about this information for the upcoming town hall on March 4th from 6 to 8. Again, that's at Central Union Church. And we're going to be doing this town hall to, engage and, just, make sure we're sharing all the details on the project and, answering questions, addressing concerns to the best that we can, because we're sincere about that. Yeah, that's that's pretty much it. I had sent this over to the neighborhood board assistant, and he's going to put this on the Google Drive to share with everybody. But yeah, I think that's it.
Now, before I open up for discussion with the neighborhood, real quickly, this group will be returning on March 4th, so that way you can ask more detailed questions, considering that we have less than half an hour left that's available to us for this meeting. So I do appreciate the fact that he's over there in person and that he's been very patient at this time at Kapala Mahale. So thank you very much for you coming over here. Again, members of the board and members of the community, this group is currently on the agenda on the March meeting, which is on March 6th. That'll be after the town hall meeting that they're hosting at Central Church. Member Bosel.
Thank you, Chair Zane. Not super detailed, but can you just give a quick rundown of what what the communities are like? What's the size of these that you're planning?
The Ukalahale Place project, which is in the Manoa neighborhood board district, is going to be 176 units located between Wilder and Dole across the street from Punahou. We're planning on doing affordable rental housing, catering towards the local workforce. Teachers in particular might find this project very attractive with a lot of schools. This is going to be affordable housing that's located.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to know the size. So 170. What did you say? How tall? What's the footprint? That's just what I'm interested in right now.
Yeah, we can share those details at the town hall meeting with you guys.
Do you know how many stories it is?
I'm not sure offhand. That's why
Okay.
I'm not prepared to share that with you guys today.
Thank you.
Okay, and yes, so there was a question in the chat about where the plan development was, so thank you for answering that question as well. Member Boso had got her questions answered, so Patty.
Thank you, Chair. Real quickly, are you going for any height exemption, such as Paho Ridge did, using any 201HC or any other thing like that for public financing?
Yeah, so we are going through the 201H process, and we will be asking for some exemptions, but we'll be sharing those details with you guys at the town hall meeting.
Ah, the good old 201HC again. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Member Fox?
Yes, just to remind this board, even though something conforms with this state rule, does not mean that anybody has to give anybody an exemption. Exemptions are purely voluntary by the city council. So just because somebody's asked for a zero lot line does not mean that the city has to grant that. The zoning code says 5 feet and 10 feet respectively. So I just remind people that exemptions are voluntary of the city council. They are not part of the state law.
Thank you, Member Fox. At this time, for the interest of the fact that we only have 22 minutes left, I'm going to be closing discussion. Again, thank you very much for letting us know about the town hall, where more details will be discussed on this particular project on March 4th at Central Union Church. And then again, this item will be on the agenda for the March 6th meeting. So thank you very much for taking your time and for your patience during this process.
Thank you, guys.
And as I mentioned, there's apparently somebody who would like to join the neighborhood board. Anson?
Yep. Here he is. His name is Christopher Moylan. And based on the information he sent me, he is okay for District 3.
Excellent.
Yep.
So, if you could briefly introduce yourself and
Wait, Robert Fox has his hand up.
No, I'm done.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me? All right. So my name is Chris Moylan. I have lived in the state for 4.5 years, lived in Honolulu for 1.5 years, and currently teach at Iolani School. As far as experience that might be useful to you, back in California, I was a planning commissioner for 5 years, an elected city council member in Sunnyvale, California for 8 years, 2 terms, and I served as a congressman's first district director. I was also a county transportation commissioner. So I've done a lot of community meetings in my time. And since I've now purchased my home on Manoa Road, hopefully the last move I'll ever make, I consulted with one of my fellow teachers at Iolani, John Bickle, who's an elector for the presidential election from the state of Hawaii. John told me what you need to do is join your neighborhood board. So I submit my credentials for your approval to fill one of the 2 vacancies for Subdistrict 3.
Any members of the board have any questions for Mr. Boylan?
Chair Zane, this is Member Nagaji. I'd like to make the nomination to add Mr. Moylan to the board for Subdistrict 3.
Thank you very much. Do we need a second, Nansen?
Oh, for these ones, we don't need a second. It's not required.
Yes. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure about that. So,
yeah.
And I believe, if memory serves, roll call vote to approve on this one?
Yes. I'll call your name, and if you approved Moylan to be on the board, you'll just say his last name. Is that okay?
Go ahead.
Okay. Zane.
Boylan.
Watson.
Boylan.
Okay. Basil.
Boylan or Moylan?
Moylan.
M. It's an Irish name.
Moylan. Thank you.
Okay. Nagaji.
Moylan.
Fukumoto.
Moylan.
Lumen.
Moylan.
Lee.
Boylan.
Okay.
Boylan.
Okay. Koff.
Moylan.
Okay. Chung.
Moylan.
Hawano.
Moylan.
And Fox.
Moylan. Anyone who can
Okay.
survive Susan Schick and Paternoster and Sunnyvale is my guy.
Okay, he is nominated, and now I could do if you want to do a recess right now, so I could do the solemn right now, or just do it just really briefly. It'll be really quick.
Yeah, I can do. You can do it real briefly. If you can mute yourself as well, Manson. While he's doing that,
I need to go away?
Sorry, actually, if you can mute yourself. Yeah, there we go. Real quickly, while that's going on, I was also asked to put on Manoa Youth Baseball League if they can do their announcement at this time.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, hi. Yeah, just really quick. My name is Robert Kurisu, Vice President of the league. I think I'm also joined by the president of our league, but we just wanted to introduce ourselves, say thank you to the community. We've been, I think this year we're celebrating our 70th year in Manoa. We also renewed our Adopt a Park, where we take care of the park, cut the grass, take care of things when the city isn't able to. And we just wanted to say thank you and appreciate the community. And we're happy to be here. That's all.
Great. Thank you. Really appreciate that. And thank you for coming out and for your patience in all this effort. And I know it's getting really late. And so, again, thank you very much for your announcement and letting us know more about the youth baseball team that's in Manoa and your community service for us.
Thank you, everyone.
Chair Zane, he did the solemn, and now he's fully part of the board.
Great. Welcome on board, Mr. Moylan.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, make sure you share that information with Anson so that way you'll get the emails as well as any other communications regarding the neighborhood board. Moving on, speaking of which, we have on the presentation section Paradise Park update. It was at the request of somebody, it was of a member of the board, but the thing about it is that it was also raised in my attention that there were issues about what about specifically about Paradise Park is concerned about, either public or private lands. And also one of the major reasons about this was for Councilmember Say, who is working on a Paradise Park working group, and he is not here. If anybody else can clarify more about the Paradise Park situation, if it's public or private, at issue right now, it'd be great. If not, I'm gonna
This
hold
is
up on the
Janelle from
agenda item.
Councilmember Say's office. Yeah, we don't have updates. We're still waiting for a response from our corporation council, and I believe Representative Garrett is waiting for a response from the DOT.
And is this more about only the public land concerning Paradise Park, or is this also involving private property in Paradise Park?
This is primarily for the road fronting Paradise Park.
This is solely about the road at Paradise Park. It's not about the private property of Paradise Park.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for that, and I appreciate the fact that you're letting us know there are no updates. Member Bosel.
Thank you, Chair Zane. I had asked about the working group. I know that you are unable and have been unable so far to attend any of the working group meetings, but the neighborhood board was sort of invited, and I think that we ought to have a different representative from the neighborhood board if we essentially don't have a representative because it clashes with your schedule to attend any of those meetings. I think like those invites and maybe even the updates ought to be going out to the entire neighborhood board. I mean, if the idea of the working group was to get, input from the community and we were meant to have a neighborhood board representation on it, then that ought to be happening.
I'm all for that. I am all for that. If somebody could attend on my behalf and for the board's behalf, I am absolutely for that. Member Fox?
I have no objection to talking about the road, since that is public land. I would be very upset if we were talking about the private land without notifying the owners of that private land. So I think I pointed that out to you all before, and I think but it seems reasonable if you want to talk about who's going to pave that horrible road. I love that idea. Thanks.
Thank you. Member Nagaji.
Yes, Chair. Since we're talking about potentially seeing someone to represent the board on the working group, what day of the week and what time does the working group meet?
Those are good questions. Let me see if we can bring that up.
Janelle,
Hi, yeah. So they've been on Fridays, but we have not had a meeting since we don't have any opinions yet. We're waiting to get that information because we can't really move forward until we have an idea of how we can take action legally.
That's fair. And Janelle, you mind if I share the meeting date and time with the members of the board as well, so that way somebody from the board can attend those meetings?
Yeah, I'll include you in the emails as soon as the Paradise Park Working Group starts up again, but we don't have any future dates scheduled yet.
Is it possible for you to send out a digest of what occurred at the previous meetings to the neighborhood board, since there was no neighborhood board representation present?
Sure, I can send some notes
to the whole board, please.
I'll send it to Robert and have him share it with the members.
Anson. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, send it to Anson as well, so that way somebody else can so that way two people can at least cover the bases, and that way it can be uploaded to the Google Drive.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Just one more quick question. The working group is not just about the road, though, right? Isn't it also about the sort of future of Paradise Park? and the question of
Yes,
that
it is.
and how
Yeah,
that
and
fits in with the community. Okay, I wanted
yeah,
to clarify that. So I think
yeah, and to ease Robert Fox's hesitations, the owner of Paradise Park is also included in those working group meetings, so has a seat at the table.
thank you.
Member Watson, really quickly.
Thank you. Maybe the working group will consider having Paradise Park sold to the Trust for Public Lands who wanted to buy it. And then we don't have to have any development there and it will become conservation land in perpetuity. So that's one idea that could go to the working group.
We can bring that up again. They've turned us down.
Member Fox, did you still have a comment to make about this?
Well, I'm in Paradise Park every 2 weeks at least. So I'm very familiar with it. If it is the will of the board, I would be glad to attend the Friday meetings.
I'm going to leave that open to anybody who wants to go at this point. Because at this point, it's not clear who is able to go first off, and also I would rather have it more as a line of being able to put in comments and bringing it back to the board to give us updates from the working groups. That way, somebody's in attendance, versus at this point making decisions on behalf of the board. But I do want somebody to at least attend and to provide the board with updates on what's going on in said working group. So if more than one member of the board is able to attend in their individual capacity, by all means. Remember Nagaji?
Never mind. I was going to suggest appointing people or electing people to be the board representative, but if we're just going to send people in their individual capacity, there's no need for a vote. So never mind.
Okay. If somebody does need to be appointed to the board, we will discuss it at the next meeting because we only have 9 minutes left of tonight's meeting. So at this point, moving on to the next agenda item, which is the approval of the July 2023 minutes and the November 2023 meeting minutes.
I move that we approve the November 22 minutes and
July 23 and
Please
November
have your
23.
camera on.
July 23 and November 22, November 23 minutes. Thank you. Whatever.
Can you have your
That
camera
was
on, please?
January.
Joan.
What? Yeah.
Can you turn your camera on, please?
Yes. Oh wait. Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, so Joan Koff made the motion to approve the July 2023 and November 2023 minutes. Ellen, you have your hand raised?
And the January 3rd, 24 minutes.
January. So we're approving 3 months of minutes.
Yes.
July 5th, November 1st, January 3rd.
Yes.
So I second that.
Okay.
So you can just ask if anybody opposes and done.
Can you have all your cameras on, please?
Ellen's camera's on, Joan's camera's on.
Okay.
So sorry, and they made a good point about the January 2024 minutes as well.
Okay.
So
it's
the motion is to
November
so the
1st,
motion
January 3rd.
Yes. So the motion is to move 3 minutes. July 2023, November 2023, January 2024. Motion was made by member Koff, seconded by member Watson.
Yep.
Just want to make sure that's for the record. Are there any objections?
Just one
Hearing
abstention.
and seeing none.
Wait, actually, hold on, because we need all cameras on, and we don't meet quorum. Oh wait, we do meet quorum actually. Wait, is that everyone?
We do. I believe we do meet quorum. 3, 6, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, yeah.
And you got a new member.
Yes, we do.
And he abstains.
Which is fine.
Yep.
And it's hearing no disapproval. Motion passes. the 3 meeting minutes for July 2023, November 2023, and January 2024 has been approved. And seeing as how we got the fact that there were no updates on the Manoa Banyan Court project from the previous notes from Mayor Belangiardi's notes. Are there any updates on the primary urban center development plan?
The only update is they're trying to look at things that could mitigate warming, right? Global warming, which is, that's what they're trying to look at now. But with all the building of the condos and affordable housing projects and cementing everything in, I expect that it's just going to contribute to the warming, not solve it. But that's what the primary urban center is looking at. Again, the primary urban center, says there should be no building in Manoa, Mauka of Wilder. But that doesn't seem to be happening. So the city's recommendation from their primary urban center development and what's reality and going on are at odds. Yeah. So I guess they're not listening to the consultants that they hired. Yeah.
Fair enough. Updates on Alawai flood mitigation.
Thank you, Chair. There are no updates.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any updates on Manoa Banyan Court, considering the mayor's representative's comments earlier? Well, rather the notes, I should say.
I think it's, sorry, this is Member Bosel. Thank you, Chair. I think this is like maybe 2 weeks old, but I call DPP every once in a while, and I haven't called in this past week, and I don't think the week before, but it's in the same condition it was, I believe, when I reported last time, where they haven't heard anything from the applicant. And I do check in, but there's also nobody who is dedicated to receive the application, and that won't be assigned until another application is or the final EA is submitted by the applicant. So
yeah, thank you very much. 3 minutes left. I'm going to open it up to traffic and driving concerns still, because I know that people were still asking about that. Again, the traffic concerns and the Manoa Neighborhood Board in-person meeting locations will be a recurring item on the agenda. Member Kawano?
Thank you, Chair. There was a community member, I think he's logged off, Curtis Hayashi, that brought up some questions on traffic along, I guess, the intersection by Dole Street and Metcalf. He's not here already. Maybe can we put it on the agenda for him, or does he have to bring it up at the very end of the meeting next time?
I'll try to place it early on the agenda for the March meeting. I know the March meeting is already becoming very crowded with a whole bunch of other ones like this meeting was, but hopefully I can put that earlier on the agenda so that way we don't have to wait to the very end on this issue and other traffic concerns in light of what happened at today's meeting.
Yeah, I explained to him that today was a really packed agenda and we might not be able to get to it, so he understood. So.
And I apologize for that as well as more in-depth discussion on in-person meeting locations. I do appreciate the fact that we all talked to Elmer about UH and seeing as how they're receptive of the idea of waiving parking fees, apparently. I'm all for that if we could get an in-person location that doesn't involve significant stress with parking and fees for the community to get over there. And a nice big place that has Wi-Fi access as well would be appreciated.
Yeah, sounds like UH may be a good option, right? Elma said he's going to work on it, so.
Right, and I
appreciate my faith in him.
I do have a lot. I do appreciate Elmer's updates. If he can do it, and if anybody else would like to follow up with Elmer, but besides me, more.
I can, Member Zane. I'm the one who called him a few weeks ago. You have 1 minute left, by the way.
Yes, thank you very much. Copy me on that, and I'll put it on an agenda, and if we can get something going through, and we can vote on it next meeting. Speaking of which, announcements. Next meeting will be held Wednesday, March 6th at March 6th, 2024 via WebEx. We do not have a vote on a meeting in-person location, so it will be on WebEx with the in-person location at Kapalama Hale. I do apologize, Elton. I see the hand up, but it is 1 minute. And just one last quick announcement with the little rebroadcast every second and fourth Saturday of the month at 3 o'clock p.m. or every third Tuesday at 9 o'clock p.m. Elton, go.
Democratic Party of Hawaii will be having a meeting at the same time, so a lot of us will not be here next month. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that update regarding that we might not have quorum. Hopefully we still will. It is 10 o'clock. Thank you very much, everybody. And that is the end of the meeting. We are adjourning at this time. For everybody who has participated, thank you very much for attending and for your patience throughout this long process. Have a good night, and I'm glad we got through most of the agenda items.